Chapter 5292. If it was so easy to light up the crystal, the Holy Light Assembly would not have been unable to find the next holy maiden for the past hundreds of years. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's next words made Shi Hongchao's dim eyes shine brightly. If I become the holy maiden of the Holy Light Assembly, I will definitely make whoever snatched your position return it to me. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and smiled proudly. She was also unhappy with the Xiao family's attitude. As long as Shi Hongchao wholeheartedly helped them, she would naturally not treat him badly. Do you really have this intention? Shi Hongchao stared at Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang. His usually calm face was now filled with excitement. This was something that he had been dreaming of all this time. Ever since the Xiao family had been pressuring him step by step, he had been wishing that someone would appear and snatch away Xiao Sou's position as the Holy Maiden of the Holy Light Assembly. He wanted to see how the Xiao family could continue to be so arrogant. However, he was very clear that the probability of this happening was too small. However, this opportunity had actually appeared and landed directly on his head. How could he not be pleasantly surprised? Of course, Di Beichen nodded. This is our purpose for coming to the Piercing Wind City this time. Then how can you be sure that you have the ability to light up the Holy Maiden's crystal? That is not an easy task. After the excitement, Shi Hongchao calmed down. As a member of the Holy Light Assembly, he knew very well how difficult it was to achieve this. At least from the few aspects that you have mentioned, I am not weaker than Xiao Sou at all. Bailey Hongzhuang's exquisite face was filled with confidence. Her gaze was firm and filled with her usual pride. Her master was the real Holy Maiden of the Holy Light Assembly, and she was the disciple of the Holy Maiden of the Holy Light Assembly. She did not think that she was weaker than Xiao Sou in this aspect. Deacon Shi, you can rest assured and trust us. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly, with our status, if we didn't have enough confidence, we wouldn't take such a risk in front of so many people. If the first half of the sentence was not enough to make Shi Hongchao believe it, then the second half of the sentence made him completely at ease. In any case, I'm already in this state. Even if I fail, it won't affect me at all. I'll fight it out with you. Shi Hongchao's eyes were filled with madness. He had suffered so many blows in recent days, and the humiliation he endured every day made him want to explode. Now that there was such an opportunity in front of him, he naturally wouldn't miss it. Even if he really failed, so what? How bad could it be? As long as he could make the Xiao family unhappy, that would be the most satisfying thing for him. The most troublesome thing now is how to give my wife a chance to light up the Saintess crystal on the day of the Saintess succession ceremony. Di Beichen frowned. Only by proving this point could they pose a threat to Xiao Sou's position. Otherwise, no one would believe them just by relying on their eloquence. They would only think that they were here to cause trouble. Don't worry, Xiao Sou will personally light up the crystal for everyone to see during the ceremony. Shi Hongchao's face lit up with a smile. When the time comes, if you appear, I will rope in others to support you. Under the eyes of so many people, they won't be able to refuse. That's great. Chapter 5293. That night, when Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen left, it was already very late. The three of them discussed many specific details and situations together. Through Shi Hongchao's introduction, the two of them also understood a lot about the process of the succession ceremony. They were no longer completely clueless like before. There was no doubt that they had gained a lot from that night. If everything went according to plan, the success rate would be extremely high. Not only them, but Shi Hongchao was also very excited. Just thinking about it made him feel like his blood was about to boil. If everything could come true, then he did not care about anything else. After all, a person's life was all about fighting for one's pride. If he was constantly being suppressed and humiliated without being able to fight back, then what was the point of living? What he wanted was to see the Xiao family's pale faces. It seems that Jiang Wenyan's favor is really not small. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. However, father saved Deacon Shi before. Jiang Wenyan should not know about this. Judging from Jiang Wenyan and my father's age, Jiang Wenyan should not know about it. Di Beichen pondered and said, based on the current situation, the chances of us succeeding are very high. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly, and according to Shi Hongqiao, when succeeding the position of the Holy Maiden of Light, the Holy Maiden's prayer will increase the power of light again. Therefore, we must not give this opportunity to Xiao Shou. She was also a woman who held grudges. She would not allow anyone who wanted to harm her to have a chance to develop. Di Beichen nodded slightly. The Holy Maiden of Light will definitely be yours. Shi Hongqiao should be very busy during this period of time. However, he has been in the Holy Assembly for so many years, so he must have some tricks up his sleeve. He should be very secretive and will not be easily discovered. Let's keep a low profile during this period of time and not be noticed by others. In a few days, Big Brother and the others will be here. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's soft hand. Under the night light, their shadows were elongated as they snuggled together, exuding a sweet taste. The weather had begun to turn cold. Bailey Hongzhuang's hands were already cold, but after being enveloped by Di Beichen's broad and warm palms, a warmth spread from her palms to her heart. Fortunately, no matter when, Di Beichen was always by her side. The feeling of two people working hard for the same goal was also very good. For the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and Gu Ruoyun stayed in the restaurant. Bailey Hongzhuang spent most of her time cultivating and comprehending the power of light. The radiant sacred steel was in the chaos ring. Although she had comprehended it for a while and obtained the inheritance, she had only comprehended a little of the laws on the radiant sacred steel. Therefore, as long as she had time, she would come over to comprehend it seriously. The radiant sacred steel was a great gift from her master for a treasure like it to fall into her hands. With such an opportunity, if she still could not surpass others in terms of comprehension, then she would have let down her master. While Bailey Hongzhuang was comprehending in peace, Di Beichen was not idle either. He was also comprehending the darkness sacred steel. Ever since the last successful summoning, he had understood the great power of darkness. If he could comprehend more, his methods would be even more powerful in the future. Chapter 50-94. As the date of the succession ceremony drew closer, the piercing wind city became more and more lively as various forces rushed over. The Holy Light Assembly was the most influential guild in the upper realm. Now that such a big event had happened, the various forces would definitely give them face. Not only that, the Alchemist Guild, the Inscription Association, and various other large guilds had also sent people over. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen came out of the house, they realized that the entire restaurant was already full. Fortunately, the two of them had already reserved a table and were still seated by the window. This seat had an excellent view, and from here, they could clearly see the situation on the street. Xiao Shou had been in a good mood recently. To be precise, ever since she had finally lit up the Holy Lady Crystal, her mood had been extremely good. All these years, she had been working hard for this point, but she had always been lacking by a hair's breadth. Others did not know how frustrated and tangled she was because of this one hair's breadth. All these years, they had used all kinds of methods, but had never succeeded. Ever since she knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's light attribute talent was so shocking, she was so anxious that she could not sleep. Fortunately, this position would eventually belong to her, and no one would be able to take it away from her. Not only that, she was now engaged to Jun Lingxuan, and everything was going as she had expected. It was really excellent. These few days, more and more forces have arrived at the piercing wind city. Xiao Shou's lips curled up slightly. These people were all here to watch her succession ceremony. By then, she would have limitless glory. Jun Lingxuan nodded slightly. It's only half a month before your succession ceremony. All the major forces have either arrived or are on their way. Do you think Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest will be here? Xiao Shou's eyebrows raised slightly as her eyes revealed a sense of satisfaction. Previously, She was most worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would come to the Holy Assembly. Now, the situation was the complete opposite. She couldn't wait for Bailey Hongzhuang to witness her success. Hearing this, Jun Lingxuan couldn't help but think of that stunning white figure. The image of Bailey Hongzhuang was deeply ingrained in his heart and was unforgettable. I don't know, but they will definitely come. I wonder what Bailey Hongzhuang's expression will be when she hears the news. Xiao So smirked, but her eyes were full of malice and viciousness. Although she didn't say it clearly before, I'm afraid she has already decided that the position of the Holy Maiden of Light will be hers. However, she must be dreaming. Is it really so easy to get this position? Jun Lingxuan turned his eyes and saw the malice and hatred in Xiao So's eyes. He couldn't help but frown slightly. I don't think so. If Bailey Hongzhuang really thinks so, she would have already come to the Holy Assembly. That means she still has some self-awareness and didn't ask to be humiliated. Otherwise, it would be a joke if she came. Xiao So scoffed coldly. She would never allow anyone to snatch away what was hers. Jun Lingxuan didn't say anything. Xiao So couldn't help but frown. Do you think I'm wrong? Before Jun Lingxuan could speak, someone interrupted their conversation. Eldest Miss Xiao, congratulations. Holy Maiden of Light, you're really amazing. You're indeed the glory of the Xiao family. Chapter 52-95. Xiao Seiwu was all smiles as she faced everyone's congratulations. Her delicate and pretty face was blooming with a bright radiance. She was truly radiant and radiant. Bailey Hongzhuang was sitting by the window and coincidentally saw this scene. Her lips curled into a mocking smile as she said, Xiao So, you can laugh as much as you want now. After a while, I'm afraid you won't be able to laugh anymore. Master, I want to go out for a walk. Ling Er's voice suddenly rang out. Ever since I came out from the historical remains, I haven't been to such a lively place. I want to go out and take a look. Previously, she had not been able to regain her memories and was immersed in frustration all day long. Hence, she was not interested in these things. However, it was different now. She had already accepted many things. Furthermore, she had been staying in the same place for so many years. In fact, she was bored out of her wits. Now that the piercing wind city was so lively, she wanted to take a look around. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, All right, you just have to be careful when you go out. Don't worry. What can happen to me? Ling smiled faintly. Bai Li Yanche also came out from the chaos ring and said, Sister, I also want to take the opportunity to go out and take a look. In the past, when he was by his sister's side, he was in the form of a beast. Since he was in his human form now, he wanted to experience it. Both of you can go together.
No.
Ling and Bai Li Yanche said in unison. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but look at the two of them and asked, Didn't both of you reconcile previously? That was because the situation forced us to. Ling glared fiercely at Bai Li Yanche and said, It's better for us to go our separate ways. As long as both of you are happy. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. However, before you go out, you have to bring this with you. In the next moment, 2 Qiankuan bags landed in the hands of both of them. There are some spirit stones inside. If you like anything, you can buy it. Both of you should buy some clothes. Whether it was Ling or Bai Li Yanche, their clothes did not belong to them. Instead, they belonged to Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Previously, they did not really come out, so they just wore them casually. Since both of them were going out, it was a good idea to buy some things that they liked. Ling looked at the Qiankuan bag in her hand and hung it on her waist in the next moment. An elegant smile appeared on her elegant face. Thank you. Sister, brother-in-law, I'll leave. Let's go out. Also, Beichun. Also, you. According to their estimations, Di Xiaofeng and the others should be here in 2 days. Now, the entire piercing wind city was very lively. Most importantly, she was very interested in a place. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's expectant face, Di Beichen nodded his head dotingly. Wherever my wife wants to go.
Hee hee.
Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and pulled Di Beichen's hand as they walked out of the house. I heard that there is an Inscription Masters Association in the Piercing Wind City. Previously, when I was in the lower realm, I didn't meet many Inscription Masters. Since there is an Inscription Masters Association here, I naturally have to go and take a look. She had never given up on inscription techniques. A good inscription was very useful. Now, she wanted to understand the difference between the upper realm and the lower realm. Chapter 5296. This time, the two of them had already removed their disguises when they left the house. At this time, most of the forces had already arrived, so there was no need for them to continue hiding their identities. When they were in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, there were many people who were familiar with them. If they were to be recognized by others now, they would be at a disadvantage. As Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen appeared on the streets of the Piercing Wind City, they quickly attracted the attention of the crowd. Not to mention that the appearance of the two was outstanding, people couldn't take their eyes off them when they appeared. The most important thing was that since the news that Xiao Seiwu was about to become the real Saint of Light spread, Bailey Hongzhuang was compared to her. Look, isn't that Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang? They are indeed here. This is going to be interesting. I originally thought that Bailey Hongzhuang had the intention to fight for the position of the Holy Maiden of the Light World. I don't think so. In the Xianyan secret territory, although Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was very outstanding, from beginning to end, she did not show any interest in the position of the Holy Maiden of Light. If you can see through everything, how amazing would that be? Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were extremely calm in the face of the crowd's discussion. This situation was within their expectations and was very normal. The two of them originally wanted to head directly to the Inscription Masters Guild. However, when they passed by the Piercing Wind City's underground market, Bailey Hongzhuang was instantly interested. Although she might not be able to find a treasure that was suitable for her, she still needed to search for it carefully. Once she found it, she would have profited greatly. Thinking back to the time when she was in the underground market of Waterchi City, she had gained quite a lot. I'm afraid Yi and the rest are not here yet. Otherwise, she would be very interested in the underground market. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Hearing this, Di Beichen smiled. Yi has always been going wherever there is a lot of excitement. She should be here in a few days. As the two of them walked into the underground market, sure enough, there was a lively scene inside. As far as the eye could see, there were stalls with many treasures on display. However, there were even more cultivators who came to pick out treasures. Such a lively scene would only appear when a grand event happened. However, before the two of them could choose their treasures, their gazes were attracted by a clamor. It's your fortune that I've taken a liking to you. Xiao Zhenliang was now flushed with success. He could make a lot of money by strolling around the underground market. However, he didn't expect to see a beauty here today. His eyes lit up instantly. His wife was old and weak, and was not worthy of his current status. He had already planned to marry someone else. However, he was also a person with requirements. Even if many women threw themselves at him, he still insisted on finding someone he liked. The woman in front of him made his eyes light up at first glance, and he was mesmerized by her. Get out of my way. The cold voice was filled with undisguised disgust. Such a huge commotion instantly attracted the attention of many people. Everyone stopped to watch. Isn't that Deacon Xiao of the Radiant Sacred Assembly? I heard that he had snatched Deacon Shi's position. Now he is in the limelight. Who asked him to be a member of the Xiao family? Xiao Sou is about to become the Holy Maiden of the Radiant Sacred Assembly. Her status is no less than the president of the Radiant Sacred Assembly. Isn't it easy to support him? Chapter 5297. Listening to the discussion of the onlookers in front, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but have a trace of sarcasm in her eyes. I didn't expect that we would see Deacon Xiao so soon. This Deacon Xiao seems to be very high profile. He dares to do such a thing at such a time when he is the focus of attention. Di Beichen shook his head. Originally, he thought that this guy should have some ability since the Xiao family supported a deacon so strongly. However, from the fact that he dared to flirt with a beauty in broad daylight, this person was no longer a concern. Even though the Xiao family was very popular now and Xiao So had supreme power in the Holy Assembly, more people paid attention to it at such a time. What's more, now that all the forces were here, even the slightest thing would attract everyone's attention. This kind of thing was the topic of everyone's leisure time. In the blink of an eye, it would quickly spread to the ears of all the forces. It was really stupid. However, don't you think that beauty's voice is a bit familiar? Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a helpless expression. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Di Beichen and then was slightly stunned. Could it be? Di Beichen nodded. Yes, it is. Bailey Hongzhuang was dumbfounded. Ling is really charming. Haoan also fell in love with her at first sight. She has only been out for a while, and someone is eyeing her again. Ling is beautiful. It's normal for people to take a fancy to her when she comes in and out of such places. Di Beichen chuckled. If everyone didn't know that you were my wife, there would be countless wild bees and butterflies around you now. Thinking of this, Di Beichen was a little proud. Fortunately, he had declared his sovereignty early. Otherwise, these guys would really have a headache. Bailey Hongzhuang, who originally wanted to stand up for Linger, couldn't help but laugh when she heard Di Beichen's words. The usually unfathomable Beichen's reaction was extremely cute when he encountered such a situation. She couldn't help but recall the matter with Chu Yingming. However, her fate was still a bit, let's go teach that Deacon Xiao a lesson. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. Anyone who dared to touch her people was courting death. She didn't care about Xiao Zhenliang's position in the Holy Assembly. She didn't even care about Xiao So why would she care about a mere deacon? However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to make a move, Di Beichen suddenly pulled her back. Beichens? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen in confusion, not knowing what he was going to do. Don't worry. Di Beichen gave her a look. Someone has already made a move. Looking in the direction Di Beichen was pointing, Bailey Hongzhuang realized that Jiang Wenyan had unknowingly walked to Linger's side. Jiang Wenyan was wearing a beige robe today. His handsome face was still rippling with a gentle smile like a spring breeze. The image of a modest young master was deeply etched in people's hearts. Deacon Xiao, this lady obviously has no interest in you. Your actions have already caused a disturbance to this lady. I think it's better for you to apologize to this lady. His pursuit of a beauty was suddenly interrupted, and Xiao Zhenliang was also unhappy. One had to know that there were quite a number of ladies who had thrown themselves at him recently. He didn't believe that this lady would really reject him. She was just playing hard to get. Now, in the entire Piercing Wind City, who wouldn't be willing to follow him if they knew his identity? Chapter 50-298. When the surrounding crowd heard Xiao Zhenliang say such a thing to Jiang Wenyan, their faces were filled with astonishment. Deacon Xiao must have put all his attention on the beauty. He didn't even recognize the young master of the Jiang family, Jiang Wenyan. Jiang Wenyan only became the young master of the Jiang family 2 years ago. It's not strange that many people don't know about him. Do you think that young Master Jiang suddenly came to save the damsel in distress because he has taken a liking to this beauty? Everyone was especially interested in the matters of heroes and beauties. Bailey Hongzhuang stood at the periphery of the crowd. After seeing this scene, her eyebrows rose slightly. Jiang Wenyan actually came out. He seems to like to draw his sword and help others. Perhaps he has fallen for Ling. Di Beichen chuckled. Previously, Jiang Wenyan always looked invulnerable. I thought that he was really pure and simple. Now, it seems that he's much more normal. He has fallen for Ling. Bailey Hongzhuang was astonished. If she remembered correctly, this should be Jiang Wenyan's first time meeting Ling. Perhaps he doesn't like her, but at least he has a good impression of her. Di Beichen smiled mysteriously. As a man, He understood a man's gaze the best. As a member of the Beast clan, Ling had a unique charm after transforming into her human form. Most importantly, someone like Jiang Wenyan, who looked pure and simple, would easily notice an elegant woman like Ling Ber. I'm Jiang Wenyan. Jiang Wenyan did not show any anger because of Xiao Zhenliang's rude words. His calm demeanor did not reveal any emotion. However, Xiao Zhenliang's expression changed when he heard the name. Young master of the Jiang family? That's me. Hearing that, Xiao Zhenliang felt his legs turn to jelly. Although he was now a deacon of the Holy Light Assembly, he could not afford to pay the price of angering the young master of an aristocratic family. He should have known that since this fellow dared to come over despite knowing his identity, his status must not be low. However, generally speaking, the young masters of aristocratic families would not be polite when speaking at such a time. Who would have thought that the young master of the Jiang family would be so humble and polite? It was completely beyond his expectations, so he treated him with the same attitude just now. So it's young Lord Jiang. After being stunned for a moment, Xiao Zhenliang's face quickly revealed a flattering smile. I didn't know it was young Lord Jiang, so I offended you. I'm really sorry. Jiang Wenyan shook his head. You didn't offend me. You offended this lady. Xiao Zhenliang looked at Ling and then at Jiang Wenyan. He understood what was going on. It seemed that Jiang Wenyan had taken a liking to Ling. Otherwise, he would not have stood up for her. Thinking of this, Xiao Zhenliang also felt a burst of unwillingness in his heart. It was not easy for him to meet such a beauty that he liked, but he did not expect that he would have to give her away. How could he not be depressed? Miss, I'm sorry. Linger looked disdainfully at Xiao Zhenliang. This fellow was really disgusting. Just an apology is enough? Just then, another devilish voice was heard. Hearing this voice, everyone turned their heads, wondering who it was that had stood up at such a time. Following the direction of the voice, a handsome purple figure appeared in everyone's line of sight. Chapter 50-299. The young master was unparalleled in this world. If one were to say that there was an unforgettable person in this world, the crowd would not doubt that the purple-robed man in front of them was that person. His chiseled features were handsome, and every inch of his face seemed to have been meticulously carved by the heavens. Every part of him was impeccably beautiful. His violet eyes sparkled like gemstones. His long silver hair complemented his fair and dazzling face. He was simply an evildoer. Heavens, whose young master is this? He's just too handsome. I can't take it anymore. This is the man of my dreams. I want to marry him. The women's eyes were filled with love. Such a handsome man was simply too rare. Most importantly, this kind of exotic scenery was simply too attractive. When Jiang Wenyan saw the newcomer, he could not help but feel shocked. This man's bearing was extraordinary. Logically speaking, he should not be an ordinary person. However, he had never seen this person before. Could he be a rising star from some organization? Ling could not help but roll her eyes when she saw Bai Li Yanche. This fellow's appearance had caused an even greater sensation than her own. Most importantly, this fellow was even more good-looking than a woman. He was simply too much of a demon. Xiao Zhenliang looked at the newcomer. His mood was already very bad. He could not compare to the young master of the Jiang family, so he could only swallow his anger. However, if this fellow who had appeared again was not an extraordinary person, he would not be able to control his anger. However, when he saw Bai Li Yanche's figure, the anger in his eyes dissipated completely. Needless to say, this person was definitely not simple. At that moment, Xiao Zhenliang's expression was complicated. He did not know what kind of bad luck he had run into today. He had only seen a woman he admired. How did he end up offending two organizations for no apparent reason? This was not something he wanted to see. Sir, who are you? Xiao Zhenliang probed. He had to find out the other party's true identity first. However, Bai Li Yanche ignored him and walked towards Ling Er's side. His handsome face was filled with exasperation. You really know how to cause trouble. Hearing this, Linger couldn't help but reveal a look of dissatisfaction. Are you blaming me for this? After she bought a few sets of clothes at the cloth store, she heard people talking about the many treasures in the underground market. She decided to come and take a look. Who would have thought that he would be targeted by Xiao Zhenliang not long after arriving here? This guy was like an annoying fly that couldn't be shaken off. Most importantly, this guy thought that he had power and influence, so he thought that she was playing hard to get. She was about to die from anger. Who should I blame if not you? Bai Li Yan Che looked unhappy. I didn't want to talk to you, but now I have to clean up your mess. Even if you don't do it, I can do it myself, Ling said unhappily. Come on, don't you still have to find someone to clean up for you? Bai Li Yan Che glanced at Jiang Wenyan from the corner of his eyes. His meaning was obvious. Jiang Wenyan looked at Bai Li Yan Che and Ling familiar faces and was shocked. Most importantly, he realized that Bai Li Yan Che and Ling were both wearing purple clothes. Could it be that these two were lovers? Jiang Wenyan was not the only one who had this thought. Everyone present had the same thought. Chapter 50-300. The two of them can't be a couple, right? This is too heartbreaking. I've waited for so many years, and I've finally found the one of my dreams. Definitely not. Even if it's me, I'll break them up. Ling who was originally calm, suddenly felt numerous gazes filled with murderous intent on her back, as if they couldn't wait to tear her apart and eat her up. He turned his gaze slightly and realized that these gazes were all from the women present. He immediately rolled his eyes. He didn't expect that these people only cared about appearances and didn't know Bai Li Yan Che's character at all. I didn't expect Ling to also buy a purple dress. When she stands next to Yan Che, they're really not an ordinary match. Bai Li Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Previously, she only noticed Ling wearing this dress and didn't think much of it. Now that Bai Li Yan Che was here, she only felt that the two of them were extremely compatible. Actually, they're quite compatible. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Currently, only Ling and Bai Li Yan Che had taken human form. If the two of them could become a couple, it would be extremely good. However, it's already good enough that the two of them don't quarrel every time they meet. Bai Li Hongzhuang spread her hands and sighed. She knew very well that the two of them never stopped quarreling every day. Although the two of them are usually like enemies when they meet, at a time like this, didn't Yan Che still help Ling vent her anger? Hearing this, Bai Li Hongzhuang nodded slightly. That's true. This kind of person should be taught a lesson directly. What's the point of talking so much nonsense with him? A trace of coldness appeared in Bai Li Yan Che's eyes. Whether it was Xiao Shou or the Xiao family, they all made him feel extremely disgusted. Xiao Shou had brought so much trouble to his sister, and the Xiao family was so arrogant. Since trouble had taken the initiative to find them, he naturally wouldn't be polite. In the next moment, Bai Li Yan Che directly punched out in front of everyone's shocked eyes. Xiao Zhenliang did not expect that Bai Li Yan Che would dare to attack him in front of so many people. Even though he had reacted in time, Bai Li Yan Che's fist was too fast for him to block. In the next moment, a figure was sent flying backwards, heavily smashing into the wall, and only then did he fall down. Gasps could be heard from the crowd. Everyone looked at Bai Li Yan Che in disbelief. No matter what, Xiao Zhenliang was still a member of the Xiao family. Now that the Xiao family was in the limelight, one had to look at the owner before beating a dog. Generally speaking, no one would choose to find trouble with the Xiao family at this time. Who would have thought that this person would not care at all? His first attack was so heavy. However, after seeing Bai Li Yan Che's actions, everyone was even more certain that his relationship with Ling was extraordinary. Otherwise, why would he offend the Xiao family for a woman? When Ling saw Bai Li Yan Che's actions, she was a little surprised as well. However, She quickly calmed down, and there was even a trace of relief in her eyes. Previously, that damned fellow wanted to take advantage of his status to make a move on her. In fact, he almost attacked him. However, before he could do anything, Jiang Wenyan had already arrived, so he stopped. However, a simple apology from the other party was not enough to relieve his anger. As a member of the Dragon Clan, how could the price of angering her be so simple? Chapter 5301. Xiao Zhenliang spat out a mouthful of blood. He covered his mouth and realized that there were 2 teeth in his hand. He did not expect the man who appeared later to be so ruthless. Most importantly, as the Xiao family steward, he was treated in such a manner in front of so many people.
How humiliating. Who are you?
How dare you treat me like this? Xiao Zhenliang roared. Even Jiang Wenyan would not do this. This fellow who appeared out of nowhere was too much. Remember this clearly. My name is Bai Li Yanche. Bai Li Yanche stared coldly at Xiao Zhenliang. His deep eyes were filled with murderous intent and icicles, causing Xiao Zhenliang's heart to tremble for no reason. When Bai Li Yanche said this, many of the people present had already memorized his name in their hearts. However, everyone was unfamiliar with this name. Before this, they had never heard of Bai Li Yanche. This person's surname is Bailey. Could he be a member of the Bailey family? That can't be. The Bailey family is only a small family. They can't even be compared to the Xiao family. He actually dared to attack Xiao Zhenliang. Isn't he asking for trouble? Everyone was familiar with the Bailey family. It was said that the Bailey family had enjoyed a period of glory many years ago. However, they gradually declined, and their influence was no longer what it used to be. In front of the Xiao family, the Bailey family had always been courteous. Who would dare to take the initiative to cause trouble? Xiao Zhenliang had thought that the other party was an extraordinary person. However, when he heard that the other party was a member of the Bailey family, the flames of anger in his heart burned brightly. Xiao Zhenliang's ferocious face was filled with rage. He shouted loudly, "Guards!" As Xiao Zhenliang's voice fell, a group of guards from the underground market rushed over. The Xiao family was currently maintaining order in the underground market. The reason why they did not make a move previously was because of Jiang Wenyan's appearance. Without Xiao Zhenliang's instructions, they did not dare to make a move. However, since Xiao Zhenliang had called for them, they rushed over immediately.
Cripple him.
Xiao Zhenliang's face was gloomy, and his eyes were filled with a malicious and ruthless light. He had to completely cripple this guy so that everyone would know the price of offending him. Of course, he couldn't afford to offend the young master of the Jiang family. However, a mere Bailey family dared to bully him. They were simply courting death. Looking at Xiao Zhenliang's attitude, Bai Li Yanche couldn't help but sneer. What? Since one person wasn't enough, they started to gang up on him? It just so happens that I also want to exercise today, so I'll play with you guys. Bai Li Yanche was speaking the truth. Ever since he returned from the immortal cloud mystic realm, he had transformed into his human form and did not have many opportunities to fight. Now that he had the chance to teach this damned deacon a lesson, it was not a bad idea. After all, this guy would die sooner or later. When the crowd saw that Bai Li Yanche was not the least bit afraid, but was instead extremely excited, they were at a loss for words. This world had changed too much. They had not stepped out of the family for a while, so why did the situation seem to have reversed? Have you heard that Bailey Hongzhuang seems to have become the head of the Bailey family? No wonder Bai Li Yanche dares to be so unyielding. It turns out that the Bailey family and the D family are now in the same boat. Chapter 5302. Everyone immediately understood. So this was the reason behind it. No wonder Bailey Yanche was so impolite when he made his move. If they were in his shoes, they would not have been so polite either. It was fine if he was his enemy, but he actually dared to tease his sweetheart. Wasn't he courting death? If he didn't have any guts, he wouldn't be a man. Just as Bailey Yanche and Xiao Zhenliang's enemies were about to erupt into a battle, Jiang Wenyan's voice rang out again. You're right. Deacon Xiao, this underground market is under the jurisdiction of the Xiao family. Isn't it a little inappropriate for you to use the guards to settle the grudge between the four of you? Jiang Wenyan's gaze was calm as he looked on quietly. However, his attitude made Xiao Zhenliang hesitate. He originally thought that Jiang Wenyan had helped Ling because he had taken a liking to her. Now that Ling lover was here, he shouldn't have any reason to help. Why did it seem like Jiang Wenyan had no intention of leaving? Young Master Jiang, you've seen it for yourself. This kid attacked me the moment he arrived. How can I not teach him a lesson? This is a grudge between the Xiao family and the Bailey family. I hope that young Master Jiang will not interfere. Xiao Zhenliang looked at Jiang Wenyan with a complicated gaze. He didn't care about the Bailey family, but if Jiang Wenyan insisted on interfering, then this matter would be difficult to handle. From what you've said, you're going to use your power to bully others. Ling sneered. The piercing Wind City is your Xiao family's territory. So you think you can do whatever you want here? Bai Li Yanche's gaze turned sinister. So this is the Xiao family's people, taking liberties with a girl in broad daylight and not allowing others to take revenge. If that's the case, any girl in the underground market that you've taken a liking to would be in trouble? You're basically robbing them. When they knew that Deacon Xiao had taken away Deacon Shi's position, they knew that this guy wasn't a good person. But now it seemed that their thinking was still too simple. This guy was completely a bully and tyrannical master. Originally, no one thought about this, but after Ling and Bai Li Yanche mentioned it, the way they looked at Xiao Zhenliang changed. Indeed, if they didn't have someone as lucky as Ling to help them, then Deacon Xiao would be able to cover the sky with one hand. Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but shudder. Deacon Zhao's actions are indeed too much. Judging from the situation, he's the one in charge of this underground market. I think the Xiao clan is really arrogant. Even if Xiao So becomes the holy maiden of the light, they shouldn't be so arrogant. Xiao Zhenliang's face turned ugly as he listened to the crowd's discussion. This was not the result he wanted. Although this was indeed the case, if word of this got out, it would have a different meaning. If the Xiao clan knew about this, they wouldn't let him off. What nonsense are you talking about? Xiao Zhenliang became serious. You're the one who started it. What's wrong with me teaching you a lesson? Men, take him down. Xiao Zhenliang signaled with his eyes. These two guys weren't easy to deal with. He had to shut their mouths as soon as possible. Otherwise, he didn't know how much trouble there would be. Chapter 5303. Linger narrowed her eyes when she saw their actions. It seemed like these fellows wanted to die today. Jiang Wenyan's expression turned gloomy when he saw this scene. How dare a mere deacon ignore his words? He usually didn't like to get angry, but since this fellow didn't take him seriously, he no longer had his good temper. Xiao Zhenliang didn't realize that his actions had offended Jiang Wenyan. He only thought that Jiang Wenyan wouldn't interfere after he revealed his family's feud. Most importantly, his reason gave Jiang Wenyan a very good way out, and he could completely stay out of this matter. Just as Jiang Wenyan was about to make a move, Linger spoke first. Young Master Jiang, thank you for your kind intentions, but leave the rest to us. A cold smile appeared on Linger's delicate face. Her eyes were filled with ice. This fellow really thought that they were easy to bully. Jiang Wenyan was slightly taken aback. In his heart, he also understood that Ling was really angry. However, he didn't know what would happen when Linger, who looked so otherworldly, made a move. Bai Li Yanche's lips suddenly curled into a dazzling and evil smile. It seemed like he and Linger were surprisingly in agreement on this point. In the next moment, the two of them flashed and attacked the guards around them at lightning speed.
Bang, bang, bang.
The sound of fists and feet colliding instantly resounded. The guards were rather strong, with all of them being at the Starlight Realm. Everyone thought that Bai Li Yanche and Jiang Wenyan would be courting death if they were to deal with the guards with their strength alone. However, What happened next was completely out of everyone's expectations. Bai Li Yen-che only threw a punch, and the other party immediately bent over like a cooked shrimp curled up. Their faces were flushed red as if they had suffered an unbearable blow. Most importantly, everyone realized that Bai Li Yen-che was simply a monster with abnormal strength. His battle prowess was incomparably shocking. Anyone who was hit by his attack was directly sent flying or beaten into a pile of mincemeat. They fell limply to the ground, unable to fight back. After the guards saw how abnormal Bai Li Yen-che was, they all turned their target to Linger. As long as they could subdue one of them, the situation would be under control. Unfortunately, their wishful thinking was still wrong. This was because this woman's hands looked slender, but the degree of violence when she attacked was no weaker than Bai Li Yen-che. Her attacks were extremely terrifying. Compared to Bai Li Yen-che, she was more proficient in speed. Her attacks arrived in the blink of an eye, and with one move, her opponents were unable to fight back. Everyone looked at each other when they saw this. This situation was far too unexpected. Jiang Wenyan looked at Linger in surprise. When Bai Li Yen-che beat up Xiao Zhenliang earlier, he already knew that Bai Li Yen-che was not weak. However, he did not expect Linger to be so strong as well. Although he could not see her true strength from her punches and kicks, she was at least at the Nebula realm. Otherwise, she would not have been able to deal with the guards so easily. Xiao Zhenliang was also dumbfounded. He did not expect the guards, who were usually extremely strong, to be like tofu in front of the two of them. They could be easily crushed. What would he do if the guards were crippled? Chapter 5304. Since when did the Bailey family have such a powerful young man? His combat power is comparable to the young masters of the major clans. Do you think that Ling is also a member of the Bailey family? I think their combat methods are somewhat similar, but I have never heard of a cultivator from the Bailey family who is so good at strength. I have to say, this kind of battle is really fun to watch. What Xiao Zhenliang had done had already made people unhappy. Now that they saw the guards being beaten into a pile of mud, everyone was happy to see it. Xiao So was now in the limelight, so it was expected that the Xiao family would be arrogant. However, if they were too arrogant, everyone would not be happy to see it. One of them is a beast king, and the other is a dragon. It is also expected that they would be so violent. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. She was very familiar with Bai Li Yen-che and Ling Er's combat habits. She had already guessed that this would happen before the two of them attacked. This was really interesting. It's good to teach this Xiao Zhenliang a lesson first. This guy needs to be taught a lesson. Di Beichun looked indifferent. He was not worried from the beginning. With Bai Li Yen-che and Ling Er's strength, it was not a problem for them to deal with this. After Bai Li Yen-che and Ling took care of the guards, their eyes fell on Xiao Zhenliang. Feeling their threatening gazes, Xiao Zhenliang could not help but take a few steps back. What do you want to do? What do we want to do? Bai Li Yen-che sneered. Deacon Xiao, didn't you say that you wanted to cripple me? Why are you so scared now? Let me tell you, I am a deacon of the Holy Light Assembly. If you dare to attack me, the Xiao family will not let you go. Xiao Zhenliang looked nervous. He was already thinking about how to leave this place. Revenge was a dish best served cold. As long as he informed his family, the two of them would have no choice but to surrender obediently. Are these words of any use to us? Ling Er's expression was cold. If Xiao Zhenliang was not a member of the Xiao family, they would not have acted like this. Bai Li Yen-che was too lazy to talk nonsense. He threw another punch at Xiao Zhenliang. Why did he find this guy so annoying?
Bang!
Xiao Zhenliang, who was already injured, was sent flying again. It was unknown if Bai Li Yen-che did it on purpose or if it was a coincidence, but Xiao Zhenliang hit the wall again and fell to the ground. It was exactly the same situation. Quick, help me inform the Xiao family. Xiao Zhenliang hurriedly shouted out to the surrounding people. These two fellas were obviously newborn calves that were not afraid of tigers. They had no intention of restraining themselves in the piercing wind city. Right now, he didn't have the slightest doubt that if no one stopped them, those two fellows might really kill him. When Xiao Shou and Jun Lingshuan passed by the underground market, they wanted to take a look. In fact, every time the underground market was held, there would always be people who would find some treasures. Now that this place was under their jurisdiction, it was only right for them to take a look. However, when the two of them arrived, they heard Xiao Zhenliang's anxious shout. The two of them could not help but look at each other as their expressions turned serious. There are actually people who dare to find trouble with the Xiao family in the piercing wind city. Chapter 5305. Jun Lingshuan couldn't help but look at Xiao Shou. Xiao Shou immediately said, "Let's go and take a look. The one in trouble should be Xiao Zhenliang." Hearing this, Jun Lingshuan's eyes were tinged with a trace of seriousness. He had some understanding of Xiao Zhenliang. In recent days, he knew that Xiao Shou and the others had supported Xiao Zhenliang to rise to the top. Logically speaking, at this time, no one should have dared to provoke Xiao Zhenliang, let alone in the Xiao family's territory. Both of them quickened their pace at the first moment and quickly rushed inside. "Stop!" Xiao Shou immediately shouted when she saw Bai Li Yanche attacking Xiao Zhenliang. Jun Lingshuan also moved and quickly appeared in front of Xiao Zhenliang, blocking Bai Li Yanche's attack. However, when he saw Bai Li Yanche, Jun Lingshuan's pupils couldn't help but shrink slightly. This man's appearance was really monstrous. He could compete with Di Beichen.
Who are you?
How dare you attack my Xiao family? Xiao Shou's face was filled with anger as she questioned loudly. Today was the Xiao family's most glorious day. These two people's actions were tantamount to slapping their faces. This was something she absolutely couldn't tolerate. Seeing Xiao Shou and Jun Lingshuan appear, the crowd couldn't help but sigh. Originally, Xiao Zhenliang was almost finished. They didn't expect Xiao Shou and Jun Lingshuan to appear in such a timely manner. Xiao Shou and Jun Lingshuan are here. It seems that Bai Li Yanche and Jun Lingshuan are in trouble. On one side was the Xiao family and the Jun family. On the other side was the Bailey family. If the Di family didn't appear in time to help, the two of them would be in danger today. After Bai Li Yanche saw Xiao Shou and Jun Lingshuan, a cold light flashed across his violet eyes. However, the corners of his lips curled into a faint mocking smile. I was wondering who it was. So it's the Holy Maiden of the Light who has been in the limelight recently. Her aura is indeed extraordinary. Xiao Shou looked at the man in front of her. Regardless of whether it was his appearance or his temperament, she didn't know why, but an indescribable feeling in her heart, she felt that something wasn't right. "You injured my Zhao's guards and tried to kill my Xiao family's deacon. Are you trying to bully the Xiao family because there's no one else?" Xiao Shou had a ruthless expression on her face. If she allowed this fellow to bully the Xiao family in front of everyone, then where would the Xiao family's face be? "I think it's your Xiao family who's bullying others." Bai Li Yanche sneered. "Everyone here knows very well what your Xiao family's deacon has done." Hearing this, Xiao Shou and Jun Lingshuan looked at each other in shock. The situation seemed to be a little different from what they had imagined. At this moment, Jiang Wenyan spoke up first. "Miss Xiao, I can testify to this matter. Your Xiao family's deacon was the one who had tried to harm this young lady. That's why this happened." As soon as he said this, Xiao Shou looked at Jiang Wenyan, then turned to look at Xiao Zhenliang. Her eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Xiao Zhenliang had just assumed his position. Anyone with half a brain would not cause trouble at a time like this. However, Xiao Zhenliang had actually done such a thing in front of everyone? Jun Lingshuan's expression also became strange. He didn't think that Jiang Wenyan would speak up at a time like this. There was no need for that at all. Faced with Xiao Shou's questioning gaze, Xiao Zhenliang couldn't help but lower his head guiltily. Chapter 5306. Damn it! Xiao Shou could not help but curse. She never thought that Xiao Zhenliang would actually do such a thing at a time like this. Wasn't this bringing shame to their family? Not to mention that doing such a thing usually damaged Xiao Zhenliang's image as a deacon, but now that all the major forces were gathered here, even the slightest movement would spread to the ears of all the major forces. Needless to say, today's incident would definitely spread rapidly, bringing shame to the Xiao family. Xiao Zhenliang couldn't help but shudder. He didn't expect that meeting a beauty today would cause so much trouble. If he had known, he would not have dared to do such a thing. Even though her heart was filled with anger, Xiao Shou also knew that now was not the time to be angry. The most important thing was to settle this matter as soon as possible. Then, Xiao Shou turned her gaze to Ling Er. When she saw Ling Er, even her eyes could not help but light up. She was indeed an elegant lady. No wonder Xiao Zhenliang would disregard his status and do such a thing. Miss, I apologize on behalf of Xiao Zhenliang for what he has done to you. Xiao Shou walked in front of Ling Er. However, he did not really hurt you, and you have already taught him a lesson. Let's drop this matter, and we will not pursue it any further. Even though Xiao Shou was apologizing, her attitude was still condescending. In her opinion, she was not only the eldest daughter of the Xiao family, but also the holy maiden of the light world. It was already very good that she could apologize. As for anything else, it was simply impossible. Hearing that, Ling Er looked coldly at Xiao Shou. Her calm expression did not change at all. According to Miss Xiao, if we don't stop now, how do you want to pursue it? Ling Er's face was filled with a mocking smile, and she did not hide it at all. When she heard Xiao Shou apologizing to her, she was a little surprised. After all, according to her understanding, Xiao Shou was not such a person. As expected, this apology was not at all apologetic. On the contrary, it was filled with arrogance. If she had accepted it, she would not be Ling Er. You should at least show some sincerity in your apology. Seeing Miss Xiao's attitude, I can understand why Xiao Zhenliang is so overbearing. Bai Li Yanche's eyes were filled with disdain. He slowly walked to Ling Er's side and stared coldly at Xiao Shou without any intention of avoiding the sharp edge. Xiao Shou did not expect Bai Li Yanche and Ling Er to be so unyielding. Logically speaking, given her status, her willingness to apologize, this in itself. However, the two of them did not give her any face at all. This made her feel very embarrassed. Jun Lingshuan's expression turned cold when he saw this. It seems that you're not willing to reconcile. If you want to reconcile, you should at least show the right attitude. Who would be willing to accept such an apology? Bai Li Yanche sneered. The disdain in his eyes became even more obvious. Do you think that everyone will have to give in to you just because you're about to become the holy maiden of the light world? Aren't you a little too shameless? Xiao Shou's expression changed abruptly when she heard this. You. Chapter 5307. When the crowd heard Bai Li Yanche's merciless ridicule toward Xiao Shou, their eyes were filled with astonishment. Even though both parties were rivals, these words were rather delightful. Even though Xiao Shou's current status was not simple and there were many cultivators who were chasing after her, everyone was still rather unhappy regardless of whether it was out of jealousy or disdain. However, it was not appropriate for them to say such things out loud. Now that someone had said it, they naturally felt relieved. Who are you? Xiao Shou calmed down. At the very least, she had to find out who these two fellows were. Since they had dared to speak to her in such a manner, their identities were probably not simple. However, Ling Er only stared coldly at Xiao Shou and did not even have the slightest interest in speaking. Speaking another word to this kind of person would be a waste of time. Seeing this, Xiao Shou's face turned even more ashen. Jun Lingshuan noticed that Xiao Shou was about to lose control of her anger, so he turned towards Jiang Wenyan and asked, "Young Master Jiang, are these two your friends?" Jiang Wenyan looked at Lingmer. This was the first time they had met, and he did not know if they could be considered friends. Just then, Xiao Zhenliang walked toward Xiao Sou's side and said, "Eldest lady, these two are from the Bailey family." Bailey family? Xiao Sou was slightly stunned. She then looked at Bai Li Yanche and Jun Lingxuan with a complicated look in her eyes, and her expression turned even gloomier. "You're from the Bailey family?" She had long heard about Bailey Hongzhuang becoming the head of the Bailey family. She had initially been suspicious of this because it was simply too baffling. However, looking at their attitudes now, she began to believe it. If it were not for her relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang, these two would never have dared to treat her with such an attitude. "Do you think you're so great just because Bailey Hongzhuang is the head of your family? Speaking so arrogantly, do you really think no one can teach you a lesson?" Xiao Sou immediately unleashed the power within her body. If the other party had not been a member of the Bailey family, perhaps she would not have done so. However, when she thought of Bailey Hongzhuang, she felt a strong urge to kill these two fellows. Bailey Hongzhuang had made her sullen for so long, so she had to make Bailey Hongzhuang unhappy. "Miss Xiao, you're really impressive." A cold and mocking voice rang in everyone's ears. Then, everyone saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen slowly walking into the encirclement. Previously, they had been staying in the corner, and the commotion here was too big, so many people didn't notice them. Now that the two of them had appeared, everyone's expression became more and more interesting. "Isn't this young Master Di and his wife? I didn't think that they would be here too. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road." This is going to be a good show. Xiao Sou's words were obviously directed at Bailey Hongzhuang. Xiao Sou was shocked when she saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's sudden appearance. She never thought that the two of them would appear so coincidentally. Could it be that these two fellows have been here for a long time and have been hiding to watch the show? Thinking back to what she had just said, her expression became a bit awkward. "I'm the head of the Bailey family. If Miss Xiao has any problems, please direct them to me." Chapter 5308. Jun Lingxuan was a little surprised when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Previously, they had not heard that the Bailey family had arrived in the Piercing Wind City. Xiao Sou straightened her expression and eased the awkwardness from before. "Bailey Hongzhuang, you're here? If we didn't come, I'm afraid that eldest Miss Xiao would target the Bailey family?" Bailey Hongzhuang's exquisite and beautiful face was filled with a cold smile. She did not intend to change the topic just like that. Xiao Sou's eyes flashed slightly. She had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be in the vicinity. The words she had said previously were too targeted, and she did not know how to smooth things over since the other party refused to let go. Miss Bailey, So had only said those words because she was too angry. "You don't have to take it to heart." Jun Lingxuan immediately tried to smooth things over. Although they were already on opposite sides, it would not be good if the matter was blown out of proportion in such an unreasonable situation. "I think that eldest Miss Zhao's words do not seem to be joking." "Elder sister?" Bai Li Yanche and Linger walked over to Bailey Hongzhuang's side when they saw her. Hearing how Bai Li Yanche addressed her, the crowd was slightly stunned. Then, they looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's beauty and suddenly felt that it was normal for Bai Li Yanche to be so heaven-defying. This Bailey Hongzhuang brother and sister's looks are really devilish. I want to ask if they have any other siblings in their family. The boy is really handsome and the girl is beautiful. These are nothing. In my opinion, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's child will be the real devilish one in the future. Once these words were spoken, the crowd's eyes lit up. With Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's devilish looks, their child will definitely be outstanding. Who knows how devilish that child will be? Xiao Sou saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was not going to let it go, and her face turned gloomy. She was already very unhappy with Bailey Hongzhuang, and this girl kept on provoking her. How could she not be angry? Bailey Hongzhuang, you're deliberately looking for trouble. Her cold voice was mixed with anger and questioning. Ever since she met Bailey Hongzhuang, she knew that this girl was a wolf in sheep's clothing. You've wronged us. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. You should be clear about the ins and outs of the matter. It was your Xiao family that was in the wrong first. In front of so many people saw it clearly. Now you want to blame it on us? Isn't that too much of a sophistry? Even if you want to find a reason, you should find one that makes sense. Di Beichen calmly added a stab, making Xiao Sou's speechless. You. Xiao Sou's face was full of anger. This matter was not like what Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang had said. However, she was not in the right from the beginning. In addition, these two people were good at talking, so the more she said, the more unreasonable she was. Such a person can actually become a deacon of the Radiant Sacred Assembly. I've long heard that the Xiao family can cover the sky with one hand in the Radiant Sacred Assembly. Now I believe it. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head and sighed. She looked so regretful that it was as if the Xiao family was trash. My sister is the Saint of Light. The Radiant Sacred Assembly naturally listens to my sister. What can you do? Chapter 5309. Following Xiao Sudong's words, the expressions of everyone present changed. Although they understood that this was indeed the case, Xiao Sudong had said it so bluntly. This showed that he had no respect for the president of the Holy Assembly. Jun Lingxuan could not help but frown when he heard this. It was fine for them to say such things in private, but to say it in front of so many people, it would not sound good if word got out. He could not help but look at Xiao Souo. At a time like this, it would be best for him to restrain himself. However, Xiao Souo did not care about this at all. She was the Holy Maiden of the Holy Light. Although in theory her position was slightly inferior to the president's, in reality, even the president could not do anything to her. She wanted to let Bailey Hongzhuang know that her status was no longer ordinary. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang had become the head of the Bailey family, her influence could not be compared to hers. She was now someone that Bailey Hongzhuang could not reach. You don't have to say such things to provoke me. Now in the Holy Assembly, my influence is not something you can imagine. My position is not something that you can influence with just a few words. Xiao Sou's lips curled into a complacent smile. She stared straight at her as if to say, "What can you do to me? Then I hope you can sit firmly on the seat. If something happens midway, and you fail to successfully sit on it, wouldn't that be a waste of your current arrogance?" Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Compared to her usual faint smile, her smile at this moment was particularly seductive. It carried a sense of bewitchment and threat, causing Xiao Souo to feel uncomfortable for no reason. She felt as if something bad was about to happen. Isn't that obvious? Xiao Sudong rolled his eyes. My elder sister was already the successor of the Holy Maiden many years ago. Who else can shake her position? Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged and did not say a word. Let Xiao Souo be proud of herself for a while. The more proud she was now, the uglier she would be when she fell. That's hard to say, considering the way you guys do things that don't distinguish between public and private matters, Di Beichen said lightly. As soon as he said this, Xiao Sudong and Xiao Sou's faces turned ashen. Jiang Wenyan, however, chuckled and looked at Di Beichen playfully, giving him a thumbs up. Brother Di, you really know how to hit the nail on the head when you speak. Great minds think alike. Xiao Souo could no longer control the anger in her heart when she saw the two of them mocking her in front of her. Don't talk nonsense here.
It's not up to you to criticize me.
You're thinking too much. We're not interested in judging you. Di Beichen's eyes darkened. What kind of explanation are you going to give us about Xiao Zhenliang flirting with Linger? Explanation? Xiao Souo frowned. Jun Lingxuan took a step forward, his eyes full of disdain. Why should we give you an explanation? Brother-in-law, there's no need to be polite to this kind of guy. Just do it. Bai Li Yanche's eyes were as cold as knives. Based on his character, he would have crippled all these guys. You're right. Di Baichen nodded slightly. Since you insist, then we can only see who's the real deal. Chapter 53:10. As Di Baichen and the others took their positions, the surrounding cultivators could not help but take 2 steps back and give them some space. The light in their eyes grew even more fervent. This was going to be a good show. Brother Di, do you mind if I join in? The corners of Jiang Wenyan's lips curled into a bright smile. His deep gaze turned towards Di Baichen. Seeing this, Di Baichen's lips curled into a smile, and he tilted his head. Of course. Jiang Wenyan chuckled and immediately stood next to Di Baichen. From the moment he had chosen to stand on the same side as Di Baichen and the others, he had already thought about the situation he would face today. Other methods would not be able to make the other party truly believe him. The only way was to let the other party see his sincerity. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze softened. If she had been a little suspicious before, she now believed Jiang Wenyan. They had always been very friendly towards their friends. Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Soa looked at each other. They could not believe that Jiang Wenyan would actually make such a choice. Logically speaking, this matter had nothing to do with Jiang Wenyan at all. Putting aside the fact that this fellow had gotten himself involved, by the looks of the situation, he was going to declare war on them together with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. What on earth was going on? Since when did young Master Jiang and young Master Di have such a good relationship? I've never heard of it before, but the fact that young Master Jiang is willing to stand out at a time like this shows that their relationship is close enough. The Shao family's influence is clearly greater now. I really don't understand why he would make such a choice. The crowd looked at each other. As the young master, Jiang Wenyan's actions did not only represent himself, but the entire family. This was a major piece of news. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. A battle was about to break out. Even though this was the Shao family's territory, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were not afraid at all. However, at this moment, a dignified female voice rang out. "So, what's going on?" Hearing this voice, Xiao So's eyes instantly lit up. Before she could turn around, Tong Yinshu's figure had already appeared in her line of sight. "Master." Tong Yinshu slowly walked to Xiao So's side. She looked at Xiao Zhengliang, who was still bleeding from the corner of his mouth, and then looked at Di Baichen and the others who were about to make a move. Her expression turned cold, and there was a hint of anger. "Say Wu, are they bullying you?" Xiao So shook her head and whispered into Tong Yinshu's ear. After hearing how Xiao So addressed her, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that this woman should be the vice president of the Holy Light Assembly, Tong Yinshu. This Tong Yinshu was clearly a beauty. Time seemed to have treated her exceptionally well, not leaving many traces on her face. On the contrary, she exuded the unique charm of a mature woman. Very attractive. Looks like the rumors are true. Tong Yinshu is indeed extremely protective of Xiao So. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Jiang Wenyan spoke up as well. Tong Yinshu has remained unmarried all these years and practically treats Xiao So as her own daughter. She's not just a little protective of her. Over the years, in order to help Xiao So successfully ascend to this position, who knows how much effort she has put in? Di Baichen nodded gently, and his gaze deepened. If Hongzhuang were to become the Holy Maiden of the Holy Light, this Tong Yinshu would definitely be a problem. Chapter 53:11. Xiao Zhengliang could not help but gulp when he felt those sharp gazes. He lowered his head guiltily, not daring to meet their gazes. He understood that when he returned today, he would not be able to avoid being punished no matter what. I already understand the situation. The reason why you're not letting this go is because you feel that we have not punished Xiao Zhenliang. You can rest assured that since he has done such a thing, we will definitely punish him. Tong Yunshu stepped forward. Her calm voice was extremely calm, but it was as if she was announcing a verdict, not allowing anyone to refuse. Seeing Tong Yunshu's imposing manner, Bailey Hongzhuang rolled her eyes. Like master, like disciple, these two's style of doing things was very similar. Vice President Tong, if you take him away like this, how would we know if he has not been punished? Bai Li Yanche's voice was cold. He did not believe that this guy would receive any serious punishment after being taken away. It was obvious that they were just doing it half-heartedly. If I say he'll be punished, then he'll be punished. Do you think I would lie to you? Tong Yunshu's face was ashen. These juniors dared to question her words like this. That's hard to say. Ling Er said indifferently. Jiang Wenyan also spoke up. Could it be that your Radiant Sacred Assembly is supporting this kind of person to be a deacon? That's just too unreasonable. Then what do you want to do? Tong Yunshu's eyes were filled with haze. Her cold appearance was filled with anger, but she still suppressed it. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. It's very simple. As long as we remove this guy from his position as a deacon, this matter will end here. Originally, she wanted to help Shi Hongqiao take back his position as a deacon, but she thought that she would only be able to do so after she had obtained the position of Holy Maiden. She never thought that Xiao Zhenliang would offend them of his own accord. Naturally, she had to grab this opportunity. If Shi Hongqiao was supported back to his original position before this, then it would be much easier for him to deal with this matter. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao Sou and Tong Yunshu's expressions changed. They had done everything they could to find a reason to support Xiao Zhenliang to this position. He had only been a deacon for a few days. If he lost his position, wouldn't they become a joke? Xiao Zhenliang's face was also pale. He had fought for this position with great difficulty. It was a very lucrative position. Not only did he have money, but he also had power. Ever since he became a deacon, his position was very different from before. If he was kicked out of his position, then he would not accept it. Impossible. Sha Soa refused without hesitation. Tong Yunshu also spoke up. This is a matter of our Radiant Sacred Assembly. There's no need for you to worry about it. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone sighed. I knew that Xiao Zhenliang was able to become a deacon because of shady dealings. Now it seems obvious. To be to. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was cold. According to Vice President Tong's words, you're planning to leave without doing anything? What else do you want? Tong Yunshu also recognized Bailey Hongzhuang. It was Bailey Hongzhuang who had caused Xiao Sou to be unable to eat or sleep well these days. Naturally, her attitude was not good. Let's go. It's not that easy to leave. Chapter 53:12. You can't leave without paying a price for laying a hand on one of our people. The next moment, under Tong Yunshu's shocked gaze, Di Bei Chen's figure suddenly moved. He swept past Tong Yunshu at lightning speed and landed a kick on Xiao Zhenliang's body.
Thump.
A clean kick with an incomparably tyrannical force sent Xiao Zhenliang flying, not giving him any face at all. Tong Yunshu, Xiao Sou, and the others never thought that Di Beichun would suddenly make such a move. By the time they had reacted, it was already too late. They could only watch as Xiao Zhenliang was beaten to the point of spitting out blood. How dare you? Tong Yunshu rebuked angrily. Her face was flushed red, and her eyes were burning with rage. How dare you attack a deacon of the Radiant Sacred Assembly? How should you be punished? However, Di Beichun ignored her. Since you won't take care of him, I'll have to do it myself. He had noticed Xiao Zhenliang's dispirited look from the corner of his eye and knew that this fellow would have to stay home and rest for a while. He then turned towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. let's go. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a small smile. Di Beichen's kick had been very satisfying. Ling Er, who had been extremely unhappy, felt much better after witnessing this scene. After all, she had not suffered any losses. She felt particularly relieved when she saw the ugly looks on Tong Yunshu's and the others' faces. Stop right there. Tong Yunshu called out to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Vice President Tong, is there anything else? You dared to injure a deacon of the Radiant Sacred Assembly. How can you leave just like that? If you don't give an explanation, everyone will be able to step all over the Radiant Sacred Assembly's head. Tong Yunshu roared. First, they had ignored her and then severely injured Xiao Zhenliang in front of her. This was a slap to the Radiant Sacred Assembly's face. Aren't you insulting the Holy Light Assembly by letting this kind of trash be a deacon? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't talk nonsense here. Xiao Suo pointed at her angrily. You attacked a member of my Xiao family and even ignored the vice president of the Holy Light Assembly. How dare you? Men, take them down. During this period of time, many people from both the Xiao clan and the Radiant Sacred Assembly had come. They had completely surrounded this place. Di Beichen suddenly laughed when he saw that the other party was about to gang up on him. It seems that we have to get ready to stretch our muscles. I've been wanting to exercise for a long time, Bai Li Yen Che said. I thought that the Holy Light Assembly would be as straightforward as its name. Now, it seems like it's a joke. Ling mocked. She didn't have a good impression of the Radiant Holy Assembly. Not to mention Ling even the onlookers had the same feeling. Their impression of the Radiant Sacred Assembly was greatly reduced. Previously, they didn't think that the Radiant Sacred Assembly was so sinister. However, now that Xiao Suo had become the Holy Maiden of the Radiant Sacred Assembly, if any light attribute cultivator dared to offend the Xiao clan in the future, they would be done for. Vice President Tong, is this how you usually handle things when I'm not around? A low voice that was mixed with anger sounded out. It carried boundless dignity and caused the atmosphere at the scene to freeze. Seeing the person who had come, the originally arrogant Tong Yunshu's expression changed. President, why are you here? Chapter 53:13. Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at the person who had arrived. As expected, it was the president of the Radiant Sacred Assembly, Lu Hongwei. She had seen Lu Hongwei at the pill refining competition in Water Splendor City, but she had only seen him from afar. She did not know much about his temperament. However, according to Shi Hongqiao, Lu Hongwei was an extremely responsible president. He was just like Tong Yunshu, and he was a fair person who only cared about the Radiant Sacred Assembly. I wonder if the president of the Radiant Sacred Assembly is also a snake in the rat's nest. Bai Li Yen Che frowned. He had planned to stretch his muscles, but he did not expect such a person to appear. He did not know which side this person was on. Am I not allowed to come? Lu Hongwei looked at Tong Yunshu indifferently. His gaze was calm, but it gave off a sense of scrutiny. Even though Tong Yunshu was the vice president, she was still very respectful to Lu Hongwei. This was because Lu Hongwei was number one in terms of strength, status, and influence in the Radiant Sacred Assembly. No one could shake him. President, things are not as you see them. You can listen to my explanation. Tong Yunshu quickly organized her words, thinking about how she could smooth things over in her mind. Her actions just now had probably made the president very unhappy. She knew that the president valued the reputation of the Radiant Sacred Assembly the most. Her actions just now had undoubtedly affected the image of the Radiant Sacred Assembly. There's no need. Lu Hongwei raised his hand and interrupted Tong Yunshu. I've seen the whole situation with my own eyes. I'm very disappointed in how you've handled it. Xiao Suo's body trembled. Clearly this included her. This matter was originally very simple. Deacon Xiao should be punished for her mistake, but you only know how to protect her. Is the name of the Radiant Sacred Assembly something you can use to commit outrages? Lu Hongwei's loud voice showed his anger. He had never thought that he would trust Tong Yunshu so much, and that Tong Yunshu would handle things like this when he was not around. Now that she was like this, it could be seen that the situation was not very good when he was not around. Thinking of this, he was simply exasperated at the fact that he had failed to meet his expectations. "President, we wouldn't dare," Tong Yunshu hurriedly said. She had never seen the president so angry in the past few years.
It seemed that she was really angry this time.
"Don't dare? I think that's exactly what you did." Lu Hongwei's gaze landed on Xiao Zhenliang. Nothing can be accomplished without rules. Since Xiao Zhenliang has done something that goes against the image of a deacon of the Sacred Assembly, he naturally cannot continue to stay in the Sacred Assembly. From now on, you're no longer a member of the Sacred Assembly, and you're not allowed to enter the Sacred Assembly in the future. As Lu Hongwei's voice fell, Xiao Zhenliang's body trembled, and his face turned pale. It wasn't easy for him to reach this step, but in less than 2 days, this position was gone just like that. Most importantly, he was not allowed to enter the Holy Assembly in the future. This meant that he had no hope of returning to his position. Furthermore, as a cultivator of the light attribute, not being able to enter the Sacred Assembly meant that he would lose a lot of resources. It would be almost impossible for him to make any progress in his cultivation in the future. Such punishment was something he couldn't endure at all. Chapter 53:14. Hearing the president's decision, Xiao Sou's expression turned extremely ugly. Xiao Zhenliang's talent in the light attribute was pretty good, and it was because of this that they had supported him to this position. Who would have thought that because of today's matter, all their previous efforts would be in vain? Xiao Soa looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with resentment. Most importantly, Bailey Hongzhuang had gotten her way, and this was what she couldn't tolerate the most. After settling everything, Lu Hongwei looked at Di Beichen and the others. "Young Master Di, are you satisfied with this punishment of mine?" Di Beichen cupped his hands. "Many thanks to the president." Unlike his disdain for Tong Yunshu, Di Beichen was much more respectful towards Lu Hongwei. It was obvious that the two of them weren't on the same level. Li Hongwei was an elder worthy of their respect. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also bowed. With Tong Yunshu as a comparison, Lu Hongwei was undoubtedly much more impartial. Xiao Zhenliang offended this lady earlier, and I hope you can forgive him. Lu Hongwei had a kind smile on his face. In the future, when our Radiant Sacred Assembly selects talents, we will definitely pay more attention to character. If there are any problems, I welcome everyone to point them out. As Lu Hongwei's voice fell, everyone's opinion changed. President Lu is indeed just and impartial as always. Fortunately, the Radiant Sacred Assembly has him as the leader, otherwise it would have been destroyed by Tong Yunshu and Xiao Soa sooner or later. Isn't that right? With President Lu overseeing things, light attribute cultivators without any background have a place. Otherwise, they would really be out of luck. The surrounding discussions weren't soft, and each sentence fell into the ears of Xiao Sou and the others, causing their expressions to turn even uglier. Wasn't this a slap in the face? Previously, when they were doing things, everyone was complaining, but now that the president had stepped forward, everyone's words changed. In contrast, they seemed even more unbearably sinister. "Guild leader, they're only here to cause trouble because they have a personal grudge against me." Xiao Soa felt a little indignant. It was still fine when they were in the immortal cloud mystic realm, but now that they were in her territory, if she were to let Bailey Hongzhuang gain the upper hand, wouldn't she be inferior to Bailey Hongzhuang in the future? As the next Holy Maiden of Light, your personal grudges have affected the image of the Sacred Assembly. You should reflect on it. Lu Hongwei didn't give Xiao Sou a chance to refute it all. His plain words left her speechless. Facing such a Lu Hongwei, Bailey Hongzhuang, and the others felt a little guilty. In fact, they knew in their hearts that their actions were indeed a little unreasonable. After all, ousting Xiao Zhengliang from his position was beneficial to all of them. It was precisely because of this that they admired President Lu's magnanimity even more. With Lu Hongwei's appearance, this matter was completely resolved. Xiao Shou and Tong Yunshu both left with Lu Hongwei. It was likely that they wouldn't be able to avoid some punishment when they returned to the sacred assembly. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't continue to stay in the underground market. After experiencing such a commotion, they had already become the focus of attention. There was no way for them to stroll around properly if they stayed, so they left first. Who would have thought that Miss Linger and Sir Yen Che are both members of the Bailey family? What a coincidence! Chapter 53:15. Ling and Yen Che have always stayed in the clan and rarely come out, so it's not strange that Sir Jiang hasn't seen them before. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Ling really didn't appear in front of others much. Bai Shi often appeared, but not in his current form. However, if others didn't ask about this, she didn't intend to say much. After all, although there were contract beasts that transformed into human forms, there weren't many of them. It was inevitable that it would cause a commotion. I see. Jiang Wenyan understood. Otherwise, with your looks, anyone who has seen you wouldn't be able to forget you. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze turned slightly towards Ling and Yen Che. Just as Jiang Wenyan said, a demon beast's human form always had a unique charm that was unforgettable. Of course, not all demon beasts could be so devilishly beautiful after transforming. It was said that many beasts would appear particularly boorish after transforming into human form. For example, Yen Che and Yen Che were probably like this because of their racial advantage. In addition, they were very good-looking in their beast form. Speaking of which, it's quite interesting. I just realized that the people around Brother D all appear in pairs. You and Madam appeared together hand in hand, and so did Sirwin from before. Now Sir Yen Che and Ling are the same. You really make others envious. Jiang Wenyan shook his head and sighed. However, after hearing this, Ling and Bai Li Yen Che couldn't help but look at each other in disbelief. I'm a pair with him? Ling pointed at herself, completely unable to accept this. How is that possible? Bai Li Yen Che was also speechless. What do you mean? After hearing Bai Li Yen Che's words, Ling eyes flashed with anger. Did this guy think that it was embarrassing to be called a pair with her? Although she felt the same way, what right did Bai Li Yen Che have to despise her? Whatever you mean, I mean it, Bai Li Yen Che said calmly. This isn't the first time you've done this. Ling glared at Bai Li Yen Che fiercely. It was the same when they were in the Bailey family. Bai Li Yen Che shrugged his shoulders. Looking at Linger's furious expression, he was also a little confused. He only felt that everything he said was very normal. All right, stop bickering. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at in front of young Lord Jiang? Bailey Hongzhuang hurriedly tried to smooth things over. It was fine if the two of them bickered normally, but it was a little awkward for them to do so in front of others. Hearing this, Linger and Bai Li Yen Che finally calmed down. So, I misunderstood. Jiang Wenyan smiled warmly.
It's all my fault.
The two of them are always like this. Brother Jiang, don't mind them. Di Beichen's eyes flashed slightly. He didn't miss Jiang Wenyan's expression. It seemed that Jiang Wenyan was indeed interested in Linger. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said such probing words. Obviously, his previous words were to test the relationship between Linga and Bai Li Yen Che. The result made him very happy. I feel that we are really fated. I hope that we can become true friends. Jiang Wenyan straightened his expression and looked seriously at Di Beichen. Brother Jiang, we have been friends for a long time. Di Beichen smiled faintly. From the moment Jiang Wenyan stood on their side, they were already true friends. Chapter 53:16. Looking at the scene, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes also showed a smile. After coming to the upper realm, they had made very few friends. Although their relationship with the Morong family was excellent, that was because Di Xiaofeng and Morong Jing were good friends. They didn't have many friends by themselves, so they were very happy to be friends with Jiang Wenyan. Of course, this was only what Bailey Hongzhuang and the others thought. In fact, many people wanted to make friends with them after seeing their strength and their frankness with their friends. It was just that they didn't have the right opportunity. Jiang Wenyan didn't stay for long. When he found out that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were planning to go to other places, he took the lead and left. It seems that we can rely on Ling to sell her body to attract allies in the future. This is much more efficient than using conventional methods. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and teased. Although Jiang Wenyan didn't say much, it was obvious that he was interested in Ling. Even when he said that they wanted to make friends, his gaze quietly fell on Ling. Actually, Yan Che isn't bad either. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. Just now, I heard many women say that they wanted to bear his children.
Haha.
Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh. That's right. When the time comes, we'll see which force's young miss is beneficial to us, and let Yan Che seduce her. It'll be 100% successful. Sisters. Bai Li Yan Che looked helplessly at Bailey Hongzhuang. She actually used this kind of thing to tease him. Ling also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang speechlessly. You're dreaming. That's not it. Bailey Hongzhuang winked proudly. Previously, we weren't sure about Jiang Wenyan's attitude, but after today's events, we can completely relax. Based on Jiang Wenyan's feelings for Ling, he wouldn't do anything to harm them. Although she had previously felt that Jiang Wenyan wanted to befriend them out of sincerity, with this layer of relationship, this alliance had become even more stable. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ling was speechless. I think you guys are overthinking it. That's not it. Bai Li Yanche also said. Jiang Wenyan's performance was very obvious. Luckily, I haven't transformed into a human yet. Xiao Bai could not help but sigh. Otherwise, she would have been used as bait by her master. Leave this kind of mission to me in the future. Xiao Xuanzi's face was full of excitement. I don't understand why Yan Che is dissatisfied with such a good thing. So many beauties want to bear your children. If it were someone else, they would be overjoyed. With that, Xiao Xuanzi sighed again. Unfortunately, I still have some time before I can transform into a human. Seeing Xiao Xuanzi pretending to be sad, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but be amused. Xiao Xuanzi, that still depends on how you look when the time comes. If you're not good-looking, then there's no chance. Xiao He laughed. Look at my master's looks. How can I not be good-looking? Xiao Xuanzi puffed out his chest and gestured for everyone to look at Di Beichen. That's not necessarily true. Xiao He exposed him mercilessly. The looks of the master and the contracted beast are not absolutely related. The male master is good-looking, but you might not be. Just wait and see. When the time comes, I definitely won't be bad. Xiao Xuanzi was full of confidence in himself. Then from now on, I'll leave this kind of mission to sell one's looks to you, Xiao Bai said solemnly. Chapter 53:17. Speaking of which, I'm a little curious. Why did you all buy purple clothes today? Xiao He looked curiously at Bai Li Yanche and Ling No wonder Jiang Wenyan thought that you two were a couple. You really do look alike. Then you'll have to ask Ling Bai Li Yanche looked at Ling I've always been wearing purple clothes. When he first transformed into his human form, Bailey Hongzhuang gave him purple clothes. During this period of time, he had fallen in love with this color. Hearing this, everyone's gaze turned to Ling Er. Ling Er had always been wearing Bailey Hongzhuang's clothes, so she had more white clothes. I just happened to see that this dress looked good, so I bought it. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others only smiled and didn't say anything. This was really a coincidence. Sister, why did you guys also happen to come to the underground market? Bai Li Yanche then went back to the topic. When he came out earlier, he didn't hear that Bailey Hongzhuang was also coming out. Otherwise, they could have left together. We originally planned to go to the Inscription Association to take a look, but we happened to pass by the underground market, so we thought of taking a look. These days, the most lively place is the underground market. Almost everyone comes to take a look. I didn't expect to meet you guys there. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. If it wasn't for the underground market being so attractive, they wouldn't have met Xiao Se Wu and Xiao Si Wu there, and they wouldn't have had such a harvest. No wonder. Bai Li Yanche immediately understood. In my opinion, since Xiao Sou is so arrogant, it's fortunate that the position of the Holy Maiden will be yours. Otherwise, the Holy Assembly will really be in a mess. Following Bai Li Yanche's words, Linger also nodded in agreement. Indeed, that vice chairman is also a disgusting person. Fortunately, Chairman Liu is not bad. We made Xiao Sou suffer today, so I'm sure she hates us to the core. She must be thinking of ways to make us unhappy. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders. Xiao Sou was not a generous person. She still remembered clearly the venomous look in her eyes today. She really hated them to the bone. You dare to touch my wife? Let her try. Di Beichen raised his eyebrows and smiled. Even though the Piercing Wind City is the Xiao family's territory, if she can't find a suitable reason to make a move, it would be useless. Most importantly, she and Jun Lingxuan together can't beat us, Bai Li Yanche said calmly. If it wasn't for someone who came to save the situation, he would have beaten them up until their parents couldn't recognize them. It wasn't easy for Xiao Sou to support Xiao Zhengliang. Now, Xiao Zhengliang has completely lost all hope. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Di Beichen. Beichen, since Xiao Zhengliang has lost his position, do you think Deacon Shi's position will be restored? That would depend on the internal arrangements of the Holy Assembly. I wonder what kind of name the Xiao family used to take away Deacon Shi's position. Di Beichen pondered. Since Chairman Liu is here, perhaps the situation will change. I hope so. I believe in Deacon Shi's ability. The group chatted as they walked slowly to the Inscription Masters Association. The building of the Inscription Masters Association was also very grand. The symbol on top was a complicated inscription pattern, which gave off a mysterious aura. Chapter 53:18. The inscription technique of the upper realm is indeed much stronger than the lower realm. She could tell just by looking at the inscription pattern. When she was in the lower realm, she had also learned about other inscriptionists. However, although they were inscriptionists, their level of inscription was obviously not high enough. My wife has always wanted to study inscription technique. Now that we are here, it's not bad to have a chance to understand it. Di Beichen's lips curled up. His wife was extremely talented in this aspect. Inscription technique was also very useful for cultivators. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Actually, you can also understand more about array formation. Di Beichen's array formation was learned from He Xinjun. There was no need to mention the strength of the Dark Holy Sun. The array formation that he grasped was also not something that ordinary people could compare with. However, Di Beichen had not come into contact with other array formation masters. If he could understand more, it would be of some help. Hearing this, Di Beichen smiled and said, "That's right. I'll ask around later if there's an array formation master association here." Ever since he understood the power of array formations, he was very interested in array formations. If he could master array formations, it would be of great use in many situations. When the four of them walked into the Inscription Master Association, they found that the spacious hall was already filled with people. Most of the cultivators here wanted to inscribe their weapons. If a weapon had a good inscription pattern, its effect in battle would be greatly increased. It was not easy to increase one's strength. However, one only needed an inscription pattern to increase one's combat strength. This was naturally something that everyone was willing to do. Although the price of drawing an inscription pattern was not cheap, the price to ask a master to help inscribe it was even higher. Even so, there was still an endless stream of people coming to the Inscription Master Association. This Inscription Master Association is really lively. Ling noticed the dense crowd in front of her and couldn't help but sigh. The Inscription Master Association's liveliness is second only to the Alchemist Association. Any place that is helpful for cultivators to increase their strength is very lively. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled as she looked around. Many people were obviously familiar with this place. There were a few windows that were specially used to receive cultivators who wanted to ask for inscriptions. As long as they paid the corresponding price, they would be able to perform inscriptions. However, it seemed to be very difficult to get an inscription from an inscription master. Elder sister, what are you doing here? If you want to meet an inscription master, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Bai Li Yen Che frowned slightly. There were so many people here that it would take a lot of effort just to line up. Moreover, those people who were looking for inscriptions had to explain their requirements in detail, and they couldn't solve any of them in a short period of time. If they were to line up here, they might not even be able to get their turn even after waiting for a few hours. After noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's group, an attendant couldn't help but walk forward. With a single glance, one could tell that these people had extraordinary statuses. However, from their blank expressions, one could tell that it was probably their first time at the Inscription Association. May I know what the few of you need? The female attendant's face was filled with a brilliant smile. When her gaze landed on Di Beichen and Bai Li Yanche, she even revealed a bit of shyness. Such handsome men. After seeing them up close, she was even more moved. Bailey Hongzhuang was a bit surprised. There were so many people in the hall, but there was actually an attendant who took the initiative to ask them. Chapter 5319. Hello, I have a question to ask Master Guan. At this moment, a young man who was not far from Bailey Hongzhuang asked the attendant. His face was filled with anxiety and nervousness. It was obvious that he wanted to see the inscription master as soon as possible. The one who was stopped by the man was the female attendant who was walking slowly. She was already very depressed when she was one step behind. Now that she was stopped by this guy who was asking her questions, she was even more unhappy. Do you think it's that easy to see Master Guan? The woman rolled her eyes and pointed to a place not far away. Look carefully. How many people in the queue want to see Master Guan? Master Guan doesn't meet people easily. Then can you help me think of a way? I can't help you. At this moment, a young man walked over and looked at the person who was talking. My master is busy studying inscription patterns. He doesn't have time to see people. No matter what urgent matter you have, you can't see my master now. The man who was asking for help was surprised when he saw the young man. You are Guan Qian, right? That's great. I didn't expect to see you. Guan Qian smiled proudly when he saw that the man knew who he was. That's right, I am Guan Qian. Guan Qian, actually I am also an inscription master. However, I encountered a problem when I was learning inscription patterns. I wanted to ask Master Guan for help, but since Master Guan isn't free, I wonder if Guan Qian can give me some advice? Guan Qian hesitated when he heard that. He also didn't give advice to people casually. Most importantly, his master said that his inscription pattern technique wasn't mature enough and didn't allow him to give advice to people casually. The man saw that Guan Qian didn't speak and thought that he was unwilling. He showed a flattering smile and said, Guan Qian, you are Master Guan's last disciple. Everyone knows that your inscription pattern technique is high. I hope you can give me some advice. It will be useful for me for the rest of my life. Guan Qian was happy when he heard the man's flattery. He was happy and said, if you have any questions, just ask. Young Master Guan, when I draw the explosion inscription pattern, I always fail for some reason. I have tried many times, but I always fail in the end. The man's face was filled with dejection and sadness. I hope young Master Guan can give me some pointers. Level 3 explosive inscription. Guan Qian asked. That's right, it's a level 3 rune of explosion. Did you mix the inscription fluid unevenly? I've tried many times. I've done every step according to the production method. There shouldn't be any problems. Tell me in detail about the inscription liquid you made. I added 10 grams of green flame rock, 3 grams of limestone powder. The man listed the ingredients one by one. His expectant gaze landed on Guan Qian, hoping to get an answer. When Guan Qian heard all this, he frowned. These materials were indeed good, but he couldn't tell where the problem was. How many explosive inscriptions have you drawn? The explosive inscription itself was very difficult to draw. If there was even the slightest mistake, it would not succeed. Chapter 53:20. The man's eyes lit up when he heard this. He nodded and said, that's right. I was a little impatient when I was drawing it. Guan Qian smiled. It's not easy to draw a level 3 explosion inscription. The failure rate is very high. Go back and try again. It's normal to fail. You must keep a calm mind. As an inscription master, how can we be impatient? Young Master Guan is right. Thank you for your advice. I'll go back and try again. The man smiled and cupped his hands. He was extremely grateful for Guan Qian's advice. Go, go. Guan Qian waved his hand. His young face was filled with pride. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sigh when she heard the conversation between the two. That works too? Sister, is there a problem with what Guan Qian said? Baisher was undoubtedly very familiar with Bailey Hongzhuang's character. Just by looking at her expression, he could guess that what this guy was saying was complete nonsense. In fact, let alone Bailey Hongzhuang, even Di Beichen and the others thought that Guan Qian was talking nonsense. There must be a reason why he couldn't succeed after drawing so many times. Even if his mind wasn't calm enough, it couldn't be the reason that led to so many failures. Guan Qian turned his head with a smile and noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' speechless expressions. A trace of displeasure appeared on his face.
What are you looking at?
Bailey Hongzhuang quietly retracted her gaze. She originally wanted to meet this Master Guan. Since he was called a master, he must be very capable. However, after seeing the standard of this last disciple, she gave up the idea. Just this kind of guidance. Forget about it. Young master, how can I help? The female attendant smiled and looked at Di Beichen. This man with such an extraordinary temperament was many times better than the guys in the guild. If she could get his favor, she would have a meteoric rise in the future. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Wife, you say it. Hearing this, the smile on the woman's face immediately froze. Her stiff expression was very awkward. I would like to ask, how can I see the books in the Inscription Association? Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the surroundings. According to her judgment, the Inscription Association definitely had a lot of books. Originally, she planned to interact with the Inscription Master, but from the lively situation, she knew that it would be difficult to meet the Inscription Master if she didn't put in a lot of effort. Since that was the case, she might as well take a look at the guild's library. That way, she would be able to gain some understanding. Upon hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the waitress was stunned. You want to look at our guild's library? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Not bad. The female attendant's gaze instantly became strange. There were many people who came to the Inscription Association, but this was the first person to make such a request. Are you a member of our guild? Guan Xian couldn't help but speak out. His eyes were filled with ridicule. I don't think you are an inscription master. If you want to look at our guild's library, only an inscription master can do it. Others can forget about it. If you want to learn the inscription technique by looking at the library, I think you should give up. The inscription technique isn't that easy to learn. It's useless even if you read the books. As an inscription master, he had a master to teach him, but he still felt that it was very difficult. Chapter 53:21. As long as I become an inscription master, I will be able to read the books here? Bailey Hongzhuang inquired. Up until now, she had learned all her inscription techniques in the Chaos Ring. After coming to the upper realm, she had not met any other inscription masters. Through reading the books, she was able to gain more knowledge and also be clear about her current level. Guan Xian saw that Bailey Hongzhuang did not intend to give up, and his brows were filled with anger and impatience. He wanted to see what this fellow was trying to do. He did not miss the mocking expression on this fellow's face. It was obvious that this fellow was disdainful of his answer. A mere layman who couldn't even acknowledge a master wanted to learn inscription techniques through reading books. This was simply a fool's dream. Don't look at the few fellows in front of him who looked like they had decent statuses. However, Guan Xian had stayed in the Inscription Association for so long and had seen all kinds of people. Just because they looked good on the surface did not mean that their statuses were not ordinary. That's right. As long as you become an inscription master, you'll be able to read our association's books. Guan Xian raised his eyebrows and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Don't tell me you intend to take the inscription test. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang replied indifferently. Let me tell you, if you are not an inscription master, you will not be able to enter our library. Guan Xian circled around Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. His face was filled with pride and disdain. The books in our library are all extremely precious. Wait, what did you just say? Guan Xian's gaze froze on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. He had vaguely heard an answer just now. I said, I intend to take the inscription test. Bailey Hongzhuang increased the volume of her voice. No one knew if it was to prevent Guan Xian from not hearing it clearly or to stop Guan Xian from explaining. At this moment, not only Guan Xian, the two attendants by the side were also dumbfounded. What kind of joke was this? She wanted to take the inscription test just to read the books in the library? This test was not something that could be passed easily. Unless Bailey Hongzhuang was an inscription master herself. But if she was really an inscription master, how could she not see these books? This didn't make any sense at all. Guan Xian was stunned, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Isn't this woman looking down on the inscription master test too much? One had to know that every year, countless people wanted to become an inscription master, and countless inscription apprentices wanted to pass the examination to become a true inscription master. However, the success rate was extremely low. Now, this fellow wasn't even an inscription apprentice, and he wanted to take the inscription master exam. Wasn't this just a fool's dream? It's not that easy to become an inscription master. If you want to try your luck, I think you should just go back. Don't waste our time. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly and felt a little disgusted. The disciple of Master Guan in front of her was really self-righteous. He believed everything without knowing anything. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang turned around and looked at the female attendant on the other side. What are the conditions to take the inscription master examination? The female attendant was slightly stunned. After she came back to her senses, She said, "You only need to pay 10,000 spiritual stones to take the inscription master examination." After hearing the number of spiritual stones, Bai Li Yen Che couldn't help but sigh. This is really black-hearted. Participating in an examination actually requires so many spiritual stones. This is to prevent people from making up the numbers and wasting everyone's time. Chapter 53:22. Who did you say was a fake? Di Beichen's gaze turned cold. Previously, they couldn't be bothered to argue with Guan Qian. However, not only did this fellow not restrain himself, he even started to climb all over them. I'm talking about. Guan Qian rolled his eyes. He originally wanted to point out that the person he was talking about was Bailey Hongzhuang. However, he never thought that he would be so shocked by Di Beichen's terrifying gaze that he couldn't bring himself to say the word "you." What a terrifying gaze. Guan Qian couldn't help but shiver. His sharp gaze was filled with a shocking murderous intent and shock. He felt that he would be destroyed by this handsome man in the next second. Seeing that Guan Qian had shut his mouth, Di Beichen then retracted his gaze. Guan Qian wasn't very old. He was about 18 years old, so they couldn't be bothered to argue with him. I want to sign up for the inscription master's examination. Bailey Hongzhuang took out a Qianquan bag and handed it to the female attendant. Here are 10,000 spirit stones. The female attendant took the spirit stones and couldn't help but look at Guan Qian. Young Master Guan, our association is very busy today, so we can't carry out the examination. If you want to take the examination, wait 3 days later. It just so happens that there are a few inscription master's apprentices taking the examination at that time. Guan Qian's expression was filled with fear. Although he was still very displeased, judging from the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang could casually take out 10,000 spirit stones, she probably had a certain background. His master wasn't around today. His master would come out of his closed-door cultivation in 3 days. When that time comes, he would wait to see this fake woman humiliate herself. However, in front of Di Beichen, he didn't dare to say anything else. After setting the time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 left first. They would only come back 3 days later to take the examination. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had left, Guan Qian stomped his feet. His face was filled with anger. Isn't she just a fellow who can't find a mentor? She's actually so arrogant. When the time comes, I'll show you how powerful our inscription association is. As the disciple of Master Guan, he had always been sought after by everyone. Today, that damn guy dared to treat him like this. He must investigate the identity of these guys and turn the tables. The 2 female attendants were speechless when they saw that Guan Qian only dared to curse after the other party had left. What was he trying to do behind their backs? If he had the ability, he should have said it earlier. I think that Guan Qian is just a sloppy person. His inscription technique isn't good at all, but his temper is quite bad. Bai Li Yen Che sneered. That guy actually believed him. We don't know if that guy really believes it or not. Maybe he's just pretending to please Guan Qian, Ling Er said slowly. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Since Guan Qian is the last disciple of Master Guan, there are naturally many people who beg him. Being able to make him happy with just a few words of flattery is a good deal. I didn't expect that the inscription master examination would take 3 days. It's quite troublesome. Xiao He felt helpless. In the past, when Master took the alchemist examination, it was done directly. It's fine. We have to stay here for a while anyway. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Let's go back first. Chapter 53-23. Bailey Hongzhuang is really despicable. Xiao Soa could not help but curse out loud. Whenever she thought of Bailey Hongzhuang, she gnashed her teeth in hatred. If it wasn't for her, Master would not have been scolded by the president. I wonder what kind of punishment she would have received. She had been training with Tong Yunshu since she was young. After all these years, she had already treated her master as her closest kin. If Tong Yunshu had not tried to protect her today, she would not have ended up in such a state. Seeing the anxious Xiao Soa, Jun Lingxuan could not help but say, "Don't worry, the vice president will be fine." Although the previous incident had angered the president is not an unforgiving person. I'm sure he was just saying a few words. Xiao Soa pouted her little mouth and looked at Jun Lingxuan with an aggrieved expression. We must get rid of this Bailey Hongzhuang. She's simply a stumbling block on my path to success. The D family's influence is not small. If we want to deal with them, we'll have to think of a long-term plan. Jun Lingxuan sighed. He also wanted to kill Di Beichen to avenge Shi Tao. However, with their current strength, it was not enough. Hearing this, Xiao Soa could not help but stomp her feet. The unwillingness on her face became even more intense. Despicable. This is our territory. How can we let them be so arrogant? Don't worry. We still need to find help for this matter. Xiao Soa's eyes lit up. Her originally dejected little face immediately regained its spirit. You mean? We'll find someone to teach them a lesson? With our current strength, if we were to fight with them, it would be hard to say who would have the upper hand. You've seen their battle prowess. It's definitely not simple. However, if we can force Di Beichen to use the skeleton summoning technique here. Without waiting for Jun Lingxuan to finish his words, Xiao Soa understood, and a smug smile bloomed on her face. Right now, everyone is still very repulsed by the power of darkness. If Di Beichen uses this method in front of everyone, he will definitely be ostracized. Even though so much time had passed, the scene of Di Beichen summoning skeletons was still vivid in her mind. That kind of scene, as long as one experienced it, would be unforgettable. Jun Lingxuan nodded slightly. That's why we have to plan this carefully. All right? First of all, we have to figure out where they are now and how many members of the D family are here, Jun Lingxuan said in a deep voice. After Bailey Hongzhuang and others left, Guan Qian thought about it and still felt unreconciled. As the last disciple of Master Guan, he was despised like this. He had to figure out who these guys were. Therefore, Guan Qian directly followed them out. When Xiao Soa arrived at the Drunken Cloud residence, she found that Guan Qian was sneakily looking inside. She couldn't help but walk to Guan Qian's side, patted his back and said, Guan Qian, what are you doing here? Being patted by someone, Guan Qian's whole body stiffened. He only felt that his luck couldn't be that bad, right? Not long after he arrived, he was discovered. As soon as he turned his head, Guan Qian found that the one standing next to him was Xiao Soa. He quickly reached out and patted his chest. His whole person was relieved. Sister So, you almost scared me to death, Guan Qian gasped. You almost scared me to death. Chapter 53-24. I followed a few guys here. Guan Qian lowered his voice with a mysterious look on his face. Xiao Soa frowned. Why are you following them? I met a few strange people in the guild today. They said that they wanted to take the inscription test, and they even dared to laugh at me. I was not convinced, so I followed them to take a look. Guan Qian's young face was filled with depression and unwillingness. He felt that there was nothing wrong with his previous guidance, but a layman actually dared to laugh at him. This made him feel very unhappy. There are actually people who dare to laugh at you? Xiao Soa was also surprised. Guan Qian was the grandson of Master Guan. who in the piercing wind city didn't know him. Usually, everyone would think of ways to please Guan Qian. As for mocking him, it was something that would never happen. Isn't that so? When Guan Qian saw that Xiao So agreed with him, he became even angrier. I don't think she can find a teacher. That's why she wants to learn about inscription techniques through our guild's books. What a joke. As he spoke, Guan Qian looked at Xiao So suspiciously. Sister So, what are you doing here? I am also here to confirm if the guy I hate is here. Xiao So's gaze sank. After returning, she sent people to inquire about the whereabouts of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. In the end, she found out that they were living in the Drunken Cloud residence. Such a coincidence? Guan Qian was a little surprised. Sister So, who do you hate? Those people from the D family. Xiao So did not hide it. In fact, everyone in the European Union knew about the hostile relationship between them. They only needed to ask a little and they would know. Guan Qian listened and nodded. Ah, I know you guys are now opponents. Then do you want to go in now? Guan Qian asked. If you go in, can you help me find out who those guys I hate are? It was his own decision to follow them out. He didn't need any attendance here, and he didn't dare to casually order his family members around. If his grandfather found out about this, he would inevitably be scolded. Xiao So and Guan Qian had known each other for many years, so she naturally understood his situation very well. She immediately nodded and said, "Tell me what those guys you hate look like. I'll help you ask around." Speaking of which, those 4 fellows are very good-looking. There are 2 men and 2 women, and their clothes are very interesting. One pair of men and women are both wearing white clothes, and the other pair is wearing purple clothes. Don't you think it's very interesting? Guan Qian couldn't help but chuckle. It was hard not to notice such a group walking on the street. However, after hearing Guan Qian's words, Xiao So's gaze became even gloomier. I think I know who you're talking about. She had just met Bailey Hongzhuang and the others in the morning. At that time, they were wearing the same clothes. How did you know just by saying that? Guan Qian was dumbfounded. Because we hate the same people. Xiao So was a little speechless. She didn't expect such a coincidence, but these guys are really quite annoying, especially that Bailey Hongzhuang. Is it that beautiful woman in white? Guan Qian asked. Remove the words beautiful. Xiao So frowned. Why did she feel so unhappy when she heard that word?
Oh.
Is it that woman in white? That's right. It's her. Chapter 53-25. Guan Qian's eyes were full of disgust. Originally, when he felt Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent attitude, he felt very angry. He didn't expect that Sister Sei Wu, who he was familiar with, also hated her so much. It could be seen that there was a problem with her. Who is the person you said was going to take the inscription master examination? Xiao So looked at Guan Qian. She didn't hear that Di Beichen and others had the inscription master's talent. It must be known that an inscription master with superb inscription technique was also an extraordinary existence. However, the difficulty of becoming an inscription master was no less than that of an alchemist. In the past, she had also learned inscription technique. However, this aspect was too complicated. She tried to understand it for a while, but finally gave up. Instead of learning those obscure inscription patterns, it was better to put all her energy into cultivation. After all, becoming the Holy Maiden of Light was the most important. At that time, the master she learned from was Guan Qian's father, Master Guan. It was because of this that the two of them met. It's that Bailey Hongzhuang, Guan Qian said. As soon as these words came out, Xiao So couldn't help but be startled. Even Jun Lingxuan, who was beside her, revealed an expression of disbelief. What did you say? Bailey Hongzhuang wants to take the inscription master examination? Guan Qian nodded slightly. Yes, she even paid the examination fee of 10,000 yuan. Xiao Soa rolled her eyes and couldn't help but ridicule. Does Bailey Hongzhuang really think that she is talented and can do anything? Jun Lingxuan also had a face of disbelief. Previously, when Bailey Hongzhuang showed her innate talent as an alchemist and doctor, they were extremely shocked. It had to be said that from this point of view, Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed very powerful. She did what many people couldn't do. However, in addition, Bailey Hongzhuang actually wanted to become an inscription master. This was really a fantasy. Guan Qian, tell us about the previous matter in detail. Xiao Soa narrowed her eyes. If she is talking nonsense, we will teach her a lesson. That's great. Seeing that Xiao Soa was willing to help him vent his anger, Guan Qian revealed an excited smile on his face. Then he recounted everything that had happened in the Inscription Association. You mean to say that Bailey Hongzhuang wants to take the Inscription Master examination because she wants to see the guild's library? Jun Lingxuan was stunned. Why did he feel that Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts were so incomprehensible? That's right. Guan Qian nodded. Don't you think this idea is hilarious? Was it really that easy to pass the Inscription Master exam? I feel that she is simply blaspheming the inscription technique. In that case, she has already paid the examination fee and is preparing to take the examination in 3 days. Xiao Se Wu's eyes flashed with a trace of light. She didn't know how to make Bailey Hongzhuang lose face, but she didn't expect that the opportunity would appear in front of her so quickly. It seems that even the heavens couldn't stand it anymore. That should be the case. Guan Qian was a little hesitant. She has indeed paid the examination fee. However, I don't know if she is deliberately saying this to save her face. Anyway, the D family is rich and imposing. 10,000 spirit stones is nothing to them. Originally, he was very confident that Bailey Hongzhuang would take the examination. However, ever since he found out that she was the young madam of the D family, his thoughts were shaken. Chapter 53:26. Listening to Guan Qian's words, Xiao Soa chuckled, and her eyes flashed with a sly light. Since he has already paid this fee, we can't let him waste it, right? Guan Qian looked at Xiao Soa in confusion. Sister So, what do you mean? Doesn't Bailey Hongzhuang like to pretend to be powerful? Then we will help her publicize this matter, so that everyone can see how much ability this talented woman has. Xiao Soa's dark pupils revealed pride and shrewdness. During this time, Bailey Hongzhuang had been in the limelight. In a short period of time, many people thought that she was a character who could stand shoulder to shoulder with her. She didn't want Bailey Hongzhuang to use her as a stepping stone. If she could make Bailey Hongzhuang lose face in front of so many people, then Bailey Hongzhuang would be dreaming if she wanted to be arrogant in front of her in the future. With Xiao So's words, Jun Lingxuan and Guan Qian had already understood her meaning, and a conspiratorial smile suddenly appeared on their faces. It seems that we have to help her publicize it. After the three of them made a plan, they didn't continue to stay outside the Drunken Cloud residence, but chose to go to another place to discuss in detail. Hongzhuang, that young man from the Inscription Association, seems to have followed us all the way here. What is he going to do? Ling reminded Bailey Hongzhuang. As a monster, her perception in this regard was also very strong. Although Guan Qian had been maintaining a certain distance, she still felt it clearly. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned, and then she couldn't help but shake her head helplessly. This guy is really vengeful. I just sighed, and I didn't even say what was going on, but he still held a grudge and followed us all the way here. It was precisely because she didn't want to cause trouble that she didn't say what was wrong, but she didn't expect to be remembered. That kid is used to being pursued by others. He is proud and arrogant. How can he stand being wronged? Bailey Yenche was very calm. Should I go and catch that kid and ask him what he wants to do? Well, if he wants to follow, then let him follow. Anyway, it's nothing. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged and took a sip of tea with her red lips. Her delicate face was calm and indifferent. According to her judgment, this kid couldn't make any big waves. He just followed them here because of a moment of anger. He couldn't find trouble with them alone. He would leave after a while. That's true. It's useless for that kid to come here alone. Bailey Yenche chuckled. What a brat. At night, Bailey Hongzhuang went to Shi Hongchao's house again. When the two arrived, they found Shi Hongzhuangyu and find Shi is Wang Zhuangyu. Look at him. Young Master D, young madam. Looking at Deacon Shi's happy face, something good must have happened. Di Beichun joked with a smile. Originally, they came here to ask if Deacon Shi had taken back Xiao Zhenliang's position after he abdicated. However, now they knew the result just by looking at Deacon Shi's expression. Chapter 53:27. We just happened to bump into them today. It's their bad luck. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. They had originally planned to take back the position of the Holy Maiden of Light and then find a way to help Shi Hongchao regain his position. They didn't expect that Xiao Zhenliang would be kicked out of the position today. It was really an unexpected gain. I've heard about what happened today. Since it happened, almost everyone in the Sacred Assembly has been talking about it. Now Xiao Zhenliang is too ashamed to face everyone. I heard that he has returned to the Xiao family. I'm afraid he won't have a good time after returning. Speaking of which, I really have to thank the two of you for helping me vent my anger. Xiao Zhenliang shot himself in the foot today. But with Xiao Sou's temper, I'm afraid it won't be easy for Xiao Zhenliang to stay in the Xiao family in the future. After today's incident, Bailey Hongzhuang also understood the extent of Xiao Sou's resentment towards her. Xiao Zhenliang made her lose face in front of her. Xiao Sou would definitely not let him go. By the way, did President Liu punish the vice president after returning? Di Beichun slowly said, his right hand rubbing the teacup. His long eyelashes fluttered, blocking the pair of charming eyes, making people unable to see clearly. As soon as President Liu returned, he directly called the vice president into the room. We could vaguely hear some reprimanding, but we don't know how he was punished. I heard that the vice president's face was very ugly when he came out. What about Xiao Sou? President Liu didn't say much about Xiao Sou. After all, this matter can be said to be a matter of the Sacred Assembly, but it can also be said to be a matter of the Xiao family. It's because of this angle that President Liu didn't say much. Shi Hongchao smiled. After this incident, I think the vice president's influence in the Sacred Assembly will be greatly reduced. Since Deacon Shi has returned to this position, it will be more convenient for you to do other things. Di Beichun said lightly. Of course. Young Master D, don't worry. There won't be any problems when the time comes. If that's the case, then we won't stay any longer. We should reduce our contact with each other for a while to avoid being discovered by others.
Yes.
The next day, a piece of news quickly spread throughout the piercing wind city. Have you heard? The young mistress of the D family is going to take the inscription master examination. Isn't Bailey Hongzhuang an alchemist and a doctor? Why do you want to take the inscription test now? This news came from the Inscription Association. It's 100% true. This is simply too fierce. It's already amazing for a normal person to be able to learn a single one, but not only did she learn two, but there's also a third. Lin Ming said. For a moment, everyone was amazed by Bailey Hongzhuang's energy and strength. If it were an ordinary person, it would be impossible for them to do so at the same time. As the news spread more and more widely, everyone began to believe that Bailey Hongzhuang was a very powerful inscription master. Of course, there were also many people who were disdainful and thought that it was just a claptrap and not to be taken seriously. Ling's son, I've sent people out early this morning to spread the news. Now, the news has spread throughout the streets of the piercing wind city. Chapter 53:28. Jun Lingxuan asked with a faint smile, I believe that they will be very surprised after hearing this news. Now that they are riding a tiger, they have no choice but to take part in the assessment. That's natural. Xiao Sou's face was filled with pride as her eyes twinkled with joy. Not only that, I have also specially prepared a big gift for them. What gift? The Alchemist Guild's President Lu Yuhai has a very good relationship with Master Guan. I heard that President Lu will be meeting Master Guan today, so I specially asked Guan Qian to say a few words in front of them. Bailey Hongzhuang is a deacon of the Alchemist Guild, and President Lu values her greatly. I believe that after hearing this news, he will be very happy to see Bailey Hongzhuang take the assessment. Xiao Sou raised her eyebrows. Don't you think that it will be very interesting? I wonder how President Lu will react when he sees his own guild's deacon being humiliated like this. Jun Lingxuan was stunned at first, but after understanding, his face revealed a sinister smile. Then the situation will be very interesting. Bailey Hongzhuang was originally peacefully cultivating when she suddenly heard a knock on the door. Only then did she exit her cultivation state with some doubts in her heart.
Who would be looking for us at this time?
Could it be Jiang Wenyan? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen. The few of them did not go out. Other than him, I'm afraid that there is no one else. Di Beichen took the lead to open the door. As expected, the moment he opened the door, he saw Jiang Wenyan standing outside with an anxious expression. The two of you are still so calm? What happened? Di Beichen's brows wrinkled slightly, his handsome and unparalleled face filled with a trace of dignity. Now the entire Piercing Wind City is spreading the news about you guys. I heard that Hongzhuang is going to take the Inscription Master assessment. How did you know? Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. Other than them and the attendant of the Inscription Association, no one else knew about this news. I don't know who leaked the news, but now everyone is talking about this matter. Everyone is saying that you are a first-class genius who is good at all kinds of occupations. Jiang Wenyan walked into the house with a worried look on his face. But I think this is overpraising him. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Lin Yiqian immediately understood. Are the rumors exaggerated? Di Beichen asked in a deep voice. It's very exaggerated, almost praising Hongzhuang as if she is the best in the world. Jiang Wenyan nodded. If she can't pass the inscriptionist examination this time, then I'm afraid. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. They were familiar with this kind of flattery. The higher he raised her now, the worse she would fall when the time came. Could it be that Guan Qian did it? Xiao He stomped her feet in anger. That guy is too despicable. We didn't even do anything yesterday. Is there a need for this? Di Beichen shook his head slightly. With that guy's temperament, I'm afraid he won't do something as complicated as overpraising. That's strange. Other than him, there is no one else. Xiaobai knocked on her head, completely unable to understand. However, at this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two said in unison, Xiao Sou. The three of them looked at each other. Other than him, there was no one else who would do this. Xiao Sou has really put in a lot of effort to deal with me. Chapter 53:29. Now all the streets and alleys are spreading this news. It must be Xiao Sou's special instructions. Under their exaggeration, this news is getting more and more exaggerated. It's simply amazing. Jiang Wenyan's jade-like face was full of worry. The news is getting more and more intense. When the inscription master examination begins, it will have spread to the ears of all forces. At that time, with Xiao Soa's temper, I'm afraid that she will try her best to make this examination be carried out in front of everyone. Di Beichen slightly frowned. His pair of black eyes that were brighter than the stars in the dark night revealed a trace of heaviness and complexity. According to the situation that Jiang Wenyan said, he could almost conclude that Xiao Soa would absolutely not just do this. She did this to make Bailey Hongzhuang lose face. Since she wanted to lose face, she naturally had to do it in front of everyone to maximize the effect. Hearing this, Jiang Wenyan's pupils shrank and his worry became even more intense. In this way, won't this inscription master examination become a Hongmen banquet? Forget it. Since Xiao Soa painstakingly prepared for me, if I don't accept her kindness, won't I disappoint her too much? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes revealed a terrifying self-confidence, and a sharp light flashed with extreme arrogance. Noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, Jiang Wenyan suddenly realized that the beautiful woman in front of him, who didn't seem like an ordinary person, also had such a domineering side. The original worry seemed to have quietly dissipated a little. The previously difficult to deal with flattery also became easy to break. Do you really want to participate in the inscription master examination? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly. Since I've signed up, I naturally have to participate. Otherwise, wouldn't I have wasted 10,000 spirit stones in vain? The reason for participating was that she didn't want to waste 10,000 spirit stones? Jiang Wenyan's lips twitched. Why did he feel that it was so unbelievable to hear from a 9th-level alchemist that she couldn't waste 10,000 spirit stones? I finally understand. You guys are determined to succeed in this matter. Jiang Wenyan looked at the two people who were calm and collected. He immediately understood that he had been worried for nothing. Di Beichen and Li Du already had a plan in mind. However, he still found it hard to believe that Bailey Hongzhuang was an inscription master. Brother Jiang, thank you so much for coming all the way here just for us. Di Beichen poured a cup of tea and handed it to Jiang Wenyan.
Have some tea.
Just wait for the show in 2 days. I do need some tea to calm my nerves. Jiang Wenyan drained the tea in one gulp and stared at Bailey Hongzhuang with his clear eyes that were as gentle as the sea. He asked with some confusion and surprise, Miss Bailey, I'm really curious as to how you managed to master so many professional skills. By his side, there were many powerful cultivators. But apart from Bailey Hongzhuang, there was no one else who had so many talents gathered in one body. I'm just interested. If you're willing to spend more time, I'm sure you can too. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her indifferent appearance seemed to be saying that as long as you're willing, you can even eat a few bowls of rice. Of course, Jiang Wenyan wouldn't believe such words. To master a profession, not only does it require time, it also requires talent. Most importantly, a person's energy is limited. It's impossible to take care of everything. Chapter 53:30. After Xiao So had released the news, she ate her snacks and drank her tea proudly. She did not seem to be in a bad mood after being taught a lesson yesterday. It was only when she saw one of her subordinates return that her eyes lit up. She put the snacks back and looked at the person in high spirits. How is it? Did you notice any movements from Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest? Reporting to young miss, your guess is right. Jiang Wenyan rushed to the Drunken Cloud residence early in the morning and did not come out after entering Di Beichen's room. Oh. Xiao So's brows slowly rose. They didn't do anything else? No, in this situation, it's impossible for them to turn the situation around. Even if they are in the room trying to think of a way, it's useless. Based on their standards, how can they fight with you? The man's face was full of flattery, and he did not hold back when he belittled Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. However, Xiao So was obviously pleased with his words. She was already in a good mood, and now she was in an even better mood. She immediately threw a money bag to the man. This is your reward. Continue to keep an eye on them and don't let them have the chance to escape. The man received the money bag in surprise. Just by feeling the weight of the bag, he knew that the spirit stones here were enough for him to cultivate for a while. His eyes were filled with gratitude as he said, "Thank you, young miss. I will definitely keep an eye on them." In the blink of an eye, the day of the inscription master's assessment had arrived. On this day, the entire Piercing Wind City was bustling with noise and excitement. Almost all the pedestrians on the bustling streets were discussing this matter. Today is the day of the Inscription Masters Association's assessment. I wonder if Bailey Hongzhuang will really go for the assessment? Of course, this news has spread like wildfire. If she doesn't go, wouldn't it be terrible? Furthermore, this is a good opportunity to prove her ability. You're really naive. With one look, you can tell that this news was not spread by Bailey Hongzhuang. It was spread by someone who wanted to mess with her. Among the cultivators, there were many people with discerning eyes. They only needed to think for a moment to know who was the initiator of this matter. As long as she was not an idiot, Bailey Hongzhuang would not do such a thing. Bailey Hongzhuang walked on the wide street and listened to the discussions in front of her. Her clear black eyes flashed with a trace of gratification. It seems that everyone is not stupid. You've all seen through the entire matter. Jiang Wenyan looked at the relaxed Bailey Hongzhuang and couldn't help but remind her, after you go there, Xiao Soa might have other plans to deal with you. You have to be mentally prepared. I know. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Her already exquisite face became even more beautiful under the sunlight. Her fair skin was so delicate that it looked like it could be broken by the wind. No matter what she does, I'll take it. When they arrived at the Inscription Association, they noticed that the entire association was extremely lively. The degree of crowding was even more exaggerated than when they first arrived. It was to the extent that the entrance of the association was already packed to the point that not even a drop of water could trickle through. Obviously, the purpose of everyone's trip was to watch a good show. Bailey Hongzhuang is here. I don't know who shouted in the crowd, but suddenly the entrance of the Inscription Association was blocked, and in the blink of an eye, a path was opened for Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to walk together. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.